about was, how does the brain learn? When we are learning something new, our brain creates new pathways, new connections between neurons. It starts forming these new connections, kind of like building a road, or building a house, or really building anything, Legos. And if the pathway is used frequently, then we can strengthen these new connections, and they can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And if we don't use those connections, we don't use that information, then it can become weakened, or even pruned and eliminated. And I always like to bring up, and not many people know about the Pixar movie Inside Out, which is a children's movie about emotions in the brain and the brain. But there's a scene where they're like going through the memories and going, okay, we're going to keep these ones and we're going to get rid of these ones. And that was kind of like a good example of how our brain can learn new stuff. Okay, so how exactly does our brain do this? Well, there are two different types of something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is how your brain learns new things. And first, we have structural plasticity. And that's where you have memories and experiences, and you may be practicing, and you're strengthening those neural connections, you're strengthening those pathways, you're kind of building on top of them. And then you also have functional plasticity, and this might be where um, areas of brain activity are actually moved from a damaged area to an undamaged area. So, example, if you've had a head injury or a stroke, the brain can actually reorganize itself, and bring those memories and those experiences to a new area. Just super cool. All right. So when it comes to sounds, we actually start hearing really early. Actually, even during pregnancy, the baby can hear. It's one of the first senses fully formed and functional at 18 weeks of pregnancy. The baby can actually hear the internal organs of mom and the blood flow. And then at 6 months of pregnancy, the baby can actually start to hear outside world and start making these connections early on. So they're made very early. And these neural pathways can be strengthened over time. And typically, this process is kind of involving multi-sensory information, not just our hearing. So we're going to maybe, I don't know, we're going to see the sound. So we see the dog barking and we make that connection like, oh, that sound is coming from the dog barking. Maybe you're somewhere and you hear a noise and you don't know what it is. You can ask somebody, what is that sound? Do you hear that? What is that? And they can tell you, oh, that's a dog barking. And you make a connection. And then maybe even from TV or movies, you see a dog barking in the movies and you make that connection. And so the more times this happens over and over again, we finally go, okay, that sound means dog barking. And so we have this throughout our life. We start building that structural plasticity regarding sounds. And I actually do have a funny story that I wanted to kind of add in here. I was cooking dinner the other night. We had food in the oven, and I started hearing this high pitched noise. And I have tinnitus, so I'm thinking it's me, that my tinnitus is making the new noise. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my husband goes, do you hear that? And I'm thinking, oh, okay, not just me making this noise. There's actually a sound coming from the oven. And we didn't know. We were looking all over the place. We had several things happening at the same time. Microwave was going, there's food on the stove top. And we finally found out it was the oven itself making this noise. The buzzer had broken, it was maintaining on, and we actually had to turn off the power to the oven to get it to stop. And needless to say, we needed to get a new oven. But it was funny, the two of us we couldn't really find it. It took us a while to find the sound. So that's how our brain made that connection. That sound means the oven. So there you go. And now at this point, you're like, okay, that's great. Thanks, Suzanne. That's awesome. Yeah, what does this have to do with tinnitus? Well, so glad that you asked. So when you get tinnitus, you don't have these environmental cues, and you don't have cues from your other four senses. You have nothing you can see, taste, smell, touch. No one else can hear it to tell you what it is. And really, we don't have a memory bank of what this sound is, not even from TV and movies. I mean, tinnitus does occur in TV and movies, but usually if you see it, it's pretty fleeting. So when it starts lasting longer, we actually start questioning ourselves. And then the other thing that happens is they actually did a specialized MRI brain study on this, where they could see that patients with tinnitus started having these neural connections, these neural pathways, white matter tracks physically formed and changed and went all over the brain. And the theory was that, the brain is trying to figure out, where is this sound coming from? What is this sound? And so here is actually an MRI of the neural tracks that are being formed. But there are more changes that occur to your brain when you're starting to get tinnitus. Because you don't have a reference to the sound, what will happen is this will turn on your sympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of keeping you alert for danger. This sound come in, you don't know what it is. Uh-oh, there's a problem. And when that happens, then the brain will turn on what's called the amygdala. So the amygdala is your internal system's fire alarm. It is in charge of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So, you know, get us out of danger in some way, shape, or form. Are we going to freeze in place? Are we going to fight it off? Do we fly away? Or do we just say, here, take the money and just leave me alone? If you're, let's say if you were being held up. And when that happens, you will have changes in your body that occur. So your muscles will tighten, your breath will get shallow, your stress cortisols will flood your brain, adrenaline will flood your brain, your heart rate rises. It basically gets you ready for action because there's a problem. And when these systems turn on, your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of decision making, logic, those types of things, goes, you know what? I'm going to step aside and I'm going to let my emergency broadcast system take over. I'm going to let this system, because you don't want me trying to make decisions right now. You just need to get out of danger. So he kind of steps aside. So it's really hard to make decisions about this. And then your hippocampus is in charge of making a memory to the sound. That's its whole job. It's how we make these neural connections. So now you have the hippocampus going, okay, this sound is a problem, and we better remember that. And so that's actually a big piece of why tinnitus is hard to manage, is because we're trying to change this memory. And we're going to talk about tools in just a few minutes here. All right. And of course, you still have more changes that occur to your brain that are continuing on during this tinnitus process. So you have something called neuroception, and neuroception is part of your brain that is looking for danger and keeps it looking for danger. You have the default mode network, which gives you all these anxious thoughts like, will this go away? Will I be okay? How am I going to manage? You also have something called the basal ganglia. So basal ganglia is kind of a gatekeeper for these thoughts. It kind of keeps things in check, but it also will, the gatekeeper kind of loses control and it will keep these thoughts on a loop. Your brain is a problem solver. And so these thoughts the brain is thinking are helpful to you to help you figure out, how do we manage this? But in reality, they're not, these thoughts are not helpful to you at all. And I usually say that they're usually lies. And then all of this stuff happening all at once very quickly basically is strengthening these neural connections and these neural pathways that formed immediately. And so now our attention is fully on the tinnitus, and that's where our attention wants to stay. Okay, but never fear, your brain can change again. So just like learning this, our brain can put it back into the background. We can strengthen those neural connections, but we can even weaken them and we can prune them. And they did a research study that actually looked at a bunch of tinnitus patients prior to doing sound therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and different types of treatments. And I've got the image here on the screen, which shows the tinnitus area being in this red area here highlighted. And then as it goes through treatment, it's getting softer and smaller. And so by the time it got to this point, the patient was reporting, yeah, I hear it, but now it's not bothering me. Now I can kind of associate it with something neutral. So these are some really good just things to know that your brain can change again. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some tools. Okay, and first we got to talk about sound therapy. As I mentioned, first when you get tinnitus, the brain doesn't know what it is. It turns on that whole alert system, creates these neural pathways. And sound therapy, when it's introduced to the auditory system, it first gives a buffer from the tinnitus and the brain. It's just like another like soothing sound to the brain. But it also gives some comparisons and some contrast to the tinnitus. So it's like sound therapy versus the tinnitus. First, the brain's like, I don't know. Okay, what's the difference here? They both have the fact that they are auditory only. You're only hearing both of these sounds. They both don't involve any other four senses. So you don't see them, smell them, touch them, or taste them. And they don't have any language. So they have those three things in common. But the one thing that they have different is they have the sound therapy is something that is neutral or pleasant that you don't mind listening to versus the tinnitus, which is something you do mind listening to. And what happens at this point is the brain goes, wait, now I finally have a reference point and I can say, okay, well, why am I caring about the tinnitus, but not this other sound therapy? Maybe just maybe this tinnitus is not a danger sound. Maybe it is not important after all. And maybe I can put it into the memory bank. It also will pull in things like other memories of like, well, I have sounds that I hear all the time also that are in this neutral zone. For example, I can hear my laptop fan right now. I can hear the heater vent going. I can hear my own breathing, um, the footsteps on the carpet. These are, the fridge. These are all sounds that I can hear, but my brain puts into the background because it realizes it's not important. And so those types of synapses start happening in the brain and actually start disrupting some of the neural connections and realizing maybe we can weaken some of these neural connections when it comes to tinnitus. So sound therapy is really important for multiple purposes. All right, tip number 2 that I have is deep breathing. We talked about the sympathetic nervous system a little bit a few slides ago, which is your alert system, your emergency broadcast system. And we're now going to talk a little bit about the parasympathetic nervous system. So, the parasympathetic nervous system is in charge of rest and digest. It's part of keeping you calm, cool, and relaxed. When you take a deep breath, studies have shown you are going to actually reduce your stress cortisols, you're going to reduce your adrenaline, you're going to relax your muscles, you're going to decrease your heart rate, you're going to decrease your blood pressure, you're increasing oxygen. And when you do that, your body can tell your brain that you're not in danger, that you don't need to be in flight or fight mode because you really can't be in fight or flight and taking a deep breath. Can you imagine like maybe you're being chased by a tiger and you stop and go, your brain wouldn't let you do that. So now you have a little bit of a disconnect of like, wait a minute, why are we taking a deep breath if we think we're in danger? Maybe we're actually not in danger. So I put up on the screen here one of my favorite deep breathing techniques, which is this 5-finger deep breathing, which is you're going to just take your hand and you're going to take your other hand and you're going to be tracing the outlines of your fingers. And anytime you trace your finger up, you're going to be breathing in through your nose nice and deep. And then when you trace your finger down, you're going to be breathing out through your mouth. So we breathe in and we breathe out. And then we repeat. And I really like this technique because it counts for you. So you don't really have to think about it too much. I like that it's tactile. You're using your sense of touch and you're using your sense of vision. And it just kind of slows you down and kind of grounds you in the presence. So this is a really easy one to kind of start engaging that parasympathetic nervous system and kind of calm everything down. And again, you're giving your brain more evidence that we're not in danger. The more evidence you can give it, the better. Okay. Tip number 3, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. As you probably, most of you know, or maybe you don't, I am an audiologist. I'm not a therapist, but I do have extra training in cognitive behavioral therapy. I actually have a coaching certificate in CBT, which is the certain term for this. So I can tell you a little bit about CBT. CBT kind of revolves around this triangle, this cognitive triangle, where they realize that there is a situation or activating event that occurs. And because of that activating event, there is going to be behaviors and thoughts that happen. There's going to be emotions, and then there's going to be consequences. That would be the behaviors, right? And so you have this connection between the three things. Our thoughts, which are usually like kind of longer thoughts about, I always say they're the longer sentences like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? How am I going to manage? The emotion of anxiousness, worry, and fear or anger. And then finally, the behavior, maybe I'm withdrawing socially because I'm having this tinnitus and I don't want to go out and talk to anybody. And what they realized with doing CBT is that if we change one of the parts of this triangle, we can actually change the other two parts. And some of the easier things to change on here are thoughts and behaviors. It's a little harder to change emotions. I can't just tell you to be happy, but I can tell you, what if we take that thought from, oh my gosh, is this tinnitus ever going to go away, and change that to, well, we have ways and tools to manage it and ways that we can work on it. That's going to make you feel a little bit better, a little bit more hopeful. And now maybe our behaviors will change. So I put up on the screen here a list of three of some of my favorite CBT techniques. One is the stop technique, which is stop what you're doing, take a breath, because then we know that helps our parasympathetic nervous system. Observe how you're feeling, put things in perspective. So that's going to engage that limbic, that prefrontal cortex, that logic center. I'm saying, you know what? I'm working on this. I'm going to get myself better. I'm going to be okay. And then practice things that work. So that's one tool. Another tool is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I really like this one because it's engaging our other senses. It's 5 things you can see. I always tell people do this with the details in mind when you're doing that. 4 things that you can touch, different textures, different temperatures. 3 things that you can hear. Looking for the small things, don't look for your tinnitus. 2 things that you can smell, again, more pungent smells if you can, and 1 thing you can taste. Again, sour, sweet, spicy, things like that. So that's a really good grounding technique. And then the 3 C's, and this is a kind of going back to this triangle, is the first C is when you're having these thoughts, I want you first to try to catch them. That's the first C. The second C is I want you to change them. And the third thing C is to actually hold on. Check it. Catch it, check it, change it. There we go. Catch it, check it. Is it true or false? And then let's change it. Let's change it to something else. So those are the 3 C's for CBT. Okay. Tool number 4 is a new hobby. And sometimes when I tell patients about that, they'll kind of look at me puzzled, like, why are you recommending a new hobby, Suzanne? And I'm like, well, because a new hobby can improve our mood. It helps with memory. It strengthens our concentration. It can enhance cognitive performance and function. And more importantly, it increases neuroplasticity. So increases brain cell turnover and increases those neurons making connections and strengthening those connections. And so if we're building new pathways, our brain has to get rid of some of the other pathways that it maybe not need or use, which would be tinnitus, right? We don't need those pathways anymore. And then when you're doing something that's new, you're not only are you learning something new, but then your brain is concentrating on that new fun thing instead of the tinnitus. More evidence to your brain that the tinnitus is not important or a problem. So that, again, the more evidence we can give the brain about this, the better we can do over time. Okay. And then last but not least is tool number 5, which is a sleep routine. So sleep is important to your overall health, and having tinnitus myself, I know that sleep can be really hard. Having a sleep routine can certainly help. So you want to set up your room for success. You want it to be dark. You want it to be cool. You want it to maybe have some sound therapy on in the room. The important things to know about a sleep routine are having a regular bedtime, You want to have some wind down activities that you're doing before bed. I usually recommend dimming the lights. You want to cue your brain that it's time for sleep. You want to turn off any electronic light that tells you that you're active and awake. You might want to do some light stretching, deep breathing. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do. And then you do want to try to have a regular wake up time. So that way you kind of make sure that you're keeping your sleep drive in check. So those are just some sleep routines. We also usually do recommend a sleep headband. This is a Bluetooth headband that can pair to your phone or tablet. And with that, you can actually have sound therapy playing in your ears and on your head at night. It's very comfortable. I had a head injury personally, so a headband didn't work for me, but a sound oasis, like little speaker in the room. This has like 20 built-in sounds, plus then you can load other sounds onto it. So those are just a couple of the tools that you can have for sound therapy at night. So work on a sleep routine. Okay. And then I just kind of wanted to end it with a little note that, tinnitus is one of the hardest things that I personally have ever had to manage. And it's very frustrating. We want it to be a linear progression. We want to set a goal and we want to, you know, have it just like, let's me do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to achieve my goal and I'm going to be better and great. But with tinnitus, it's more like this, where it's, you start a goal, you set a goal, you start the process, maybe you start doubting yourself a little bit, then you start learning, and then you feel like I'm going to, really emphasize that you feel like you're failing. Maybe you're having fluctuations during tinnitus, but then you get a little bit of encouragement, like that's actually normal. Let's go back to practicing the things that we know that work. Again, you might start feeling lost again. Get another little bit of encouragement. Hey, now I think I'm getting it. You might feel like you're struggling. But then finally, you will get to the point where you achieve it. So even though the road is really curvy and bumpy, not so straightforward, I do want to encourage you that you can get to a point where the tinnitus can be manageable and more in the background. So don't give up, don't lose hope. And I hopefully some of these tools were helpful to you and you learned a little bit about neuroplasticity. And thank you for your time. There you go.
Let's give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Suzanne May on the Treble Health team. And Dr. Suzanne, you currently see patients, you're running our team that sees patients. What could someone expect if they wanted to work with someone like you or speak one-on-one? Could you share a little bit about what we do at Treble Health or what your role is?
Yeah. So, if you come to Treble Health, what you're going to expect is that we have a team full of audiologists that are they're passionate about helping patients with tinnitus. They have extra training in working with patients that have tinnitus, including cognitive behavioral therapy techniques and coaching strategies that we use. And we're highly versed in tinnitus. That's pretty much what we talk about all day long. And so when you're coming to us, you're going to get like actionable things to do. You're actually going to get information about what is tinnitus, what is happening in your brain, what's going on with your body, how we can manage that, and getting, I'm going to say like holding your hand through the process, making sure that you're not feeling lost as you go through. So that's what you would expect when you come into our program.
All right, we have some questions, live Q&A, and then we'll jump to our next presentation, which is an individual with tinnitus, Maria. So, guys, thank you so much. We're here at the Tinnitus Relief Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Thompson. I'm an audiologist, tinnitus specialist, passionate about helping you guys. One of our goals here is to provide accurate education for you so you can learn from amazing doctors like Dr. Suzanne, and you can take some things and implement them into your next 24 hours, into your next week, and start to notice improvements and changes. So that's the power of the internet. That's why we do this summit online. Suzanne, we got some questions for you. The first question is from William. William asks, I'm a Treble Health patient. I have most of my day that I don't experience tinnitus. I'm tinnitus free, but in the afternoon and evening, it starts to get louder. Any advice on how to extend my tinnitus free time when it only bothers me in the afternoons and evenings?
That is a great question. So, usually what I recommend is you have to kind of start during the day of not forgetting to do some of the things that are going to help you later. An example I give is like if you're not drinking water throughout the day, and then in the evening you're like, wow, I have a really bad headache, it's because you haven't been drinking water throughout the day. So making sure that you're taking breaks, like if you're actively working still, making sure that you have built-in breaks during your day. I actually have a couple built-in breaks during my day to make sure I get up away from my computer, that I'm deep breathing and I'm stretching. So I recommend doing that. Spending a few times a day actually just deep breathing is also a really good thing to do. That's going to kind of help you extend your time into the evening, not predicting that you're going to have tinnitus happen in the evening. And then maybe have some kind of activity that you're doing in the evening that you're going to go to, that you're planning to, so that way your focus is on that. So
Thank
those
you.
are quick off the top of my head.
Thank you. Next question is it true that tinnitus causes hearing loss and memory loss? Could you explain that?
Yeah. So tinnitus is actually a symptom of hearing loss. So hearing loss, you can actually go back and see another summit. I talk about anatomy of the ear and how hearing can affect tinnitus. And so tinnitus is usually a symptom of hearing loss. As far as memory goes, we know untreated, I'm going to specify this, untreated hearing loss can cause cognitive decline. So you do want to make sure you're treating the hearing loss. There is some thoughts of like, because tinnitus is related to hearing loss, that there might be some neural connections there. But if you're doing the things that we're talking about, I think when you're treating your hearing loss and treating your tinnitus, the studies show that you're going to be just fine. So,
Thank you so much. And next question we have is from Trevor Ball. Trevor, I love you. Great to see you here.
hi, Trevor.
Trevor says, Dr. Suzanne, thank you for helping me on my healing journey. You returned my life to normal. Are things above 85 decibels considered dangerous to your ears?
So kind of my rule of thumb is that, above 85 decibels, you do want to be wearing some type of ear protection. There is something called the 3 Ds of noise exposure. So decibels, distance, and duration. So how loud is it? How close are you to it? And how long you're going to be around it. So kind of the rule of thumb is, at 90 dB, you probably should be wearing ear protection, but that's going to be, you can be in there for 8 hours. And then as you kind of increase your time, you should either, distancing yourself, or maybe halving the amount of time that you're in. So you do want to be wearing protection when it's getting up there into that 90 dB range.
Thank you so
Hi,
much. All right,
Trevor.
guys, we got two more questions. First is from Marsha. Marsha asks, how do you and how does Treble Health manage hearing loss accompanying tinnitus?
That is a great question. So we actually do sell devices. We have our hearing aids actually provide both amplification and sound therapy for patients that have both hearing loss and tinnitus. So that's we have devices for you.
Excellent. Excellent. And then Lisa asks, I have tinnitus 24/7. Will a hearing aid work? I don't have hearing loss.
So yes, I don't have hearing loss either. My tinnitus is from a head injury, and sound therapy. So the hearing aid devices that I have are not set up to be a hearing aid. They're set up to be just sound therapy, and it helped me tremendously.
All right, guys, let's give another virtual round of applause. Big thank you to Dr. Suzanne May, who is on our team at Treble Health, who did such an amazing job. So, Dr. Suzanne, any last words of hope or encouragement for us to get our health just a little bit better in the next week ahead?
I'm always about, sending a message of hope that there are things that you can do for tinnitus. I am a prime example of how doing these sound therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and all these things that I mentioned do help and can get you into a better place. And you can do it too.
All right, guys. And if you want to reach out to Dr. Suzanne specifically, we're going to include a link where you can schedule a consultation with a doctor on our team at Treble Health. We have availability today. And then, should you want to engage with Dr. Suzanne more formally or another doctor on our team, you'll have the option to do that. Let's put that link in the chat right now. And I'll recenter us a moment. So, guys, this is the Tinnitus Relief Summit Fall Edition. We just had our first Amazing presentation, setting the bar high, may I say, setting the bar quite high. Now let's recenter and explain what comes next. Well, the core message for us in the summit is that long-lasting relief from tinnitus is possible. Unfortunately, many doctors say there's not much you can do for tinnitus, or you may have gone to other specialists or other clinics and been told, sorry, you just have to live with it. I don't have anything that I can help you with. But that's not true. There are specialists like myself and our team and others around the world that are dedicating our lives to helping you, to taking your tinnitus or sound sensitivity or hearing loss, wherever you're at right now, and creating significant improvements. So today's schedule for the summit, we decided to have 4 doctors and 2 patients. So 2 individuals with tinnitus that went through the patient journey, and then 4 doctors who do this all day and are truly experts, top 10 doctors in the country, in my opinion, in our field. So next up, we have Maria, who has worked with Treble Health, who worked with various doctors on our team, who has a lot of wisdom and insight to share with you guys. I'm excited for that. It's coming up just here in a few minutes. And then we have Dr. Tricia Scaglione, who's out of our Florida tinnitus clinic location for Treble Health. Her talk will be science-based tinnitus treatment, what works today, what's coming tomorrow, followed by Michael, an individual with tinnitus, sharing his success story, what tools and techniques helped him get better. Then we have 2 presentations, 2 p.m. Eastern, Dr. Gail Brenner, covering tinnitus retraining therapy, what you can learn from 30 years of effective treatment. Do not miss that one. Treble Health recently partnered with Dr. Gail and her tinnitus treatment clinic in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which has been doing such great work for so many years. It's now working alongside Treble Health. We're really excited about working with her, and she's such a nice lady. And then finally, we have myself. I'm going to be rounding out the summit here with the talk, Comprehensive Tinnitus Treatment, the 5 most important tools and how to master them. Quick ask, a quick favor or request for you guys is to understand who you are, why you're here, and how we can help. So with that, we've created a short poll. It'll take about 2 minutes. And we want to launch this poll right now. You'll see a pop-up up here on your screen, and you'll be able to share details about your specific case. That pop-up should appear right now. So let's please take 2 minutes to complete it. The first question asks, how bothersome is your tinnitus on a 1 to 10 scale? And the rest of the questions are going to help us understand what you're going through. We will be announcing giveaways. So we'll be giving away our day and night tinnitus relief kit. We'll be giving away 3 of those. So for those who complete the poll, you'll be automatically entered into our giveaway, which we'll announce at the end of my talk here today. So complete the poll right now. Make sure you submit it, and then come to my talk today. We'll be announcing the winners of the giveaway. All right. As that's rolling, we'll have 2 minutes, and then we'll bring on Maria, who will be our next speaker. Nice job, guys. We'll keep the poll up here for another 1 or 2 minutes, allowing you guys to complete the questions and answers. Thank you so much. We have our first poll submissions coming in. Thank you, guys. We're getting set up for Maria next. Maria, could you please fix your video and turn on your audio as well? Thank you.
Not sure why my video's not working. Do you have to?
Yeah, let's troubleshoot that. So try to play around with the
Okay.
settings there and change the video for me.
Yeah. Says I'm on, but then Let's see.
All right, guys, just another 30 seconds to complete the poll. If you haven't submitted it already, thank you.
I think it might be on your end because my video shows on. Do you have to allow me?
Let's try to figure that out. Maria, could you try to log out and come back in?
Sure.
Thanks. All right, another 10 seconds and we'll stop the poll. There are some questions coming in. Will this be recorded? Yes, this is on our YouTube channel live right now. So you'll be able to immediately check anything you missed by going to the live stream on YouTube. It will be immediately recorded there. And then if you're on our email list for Treble Health, then you'll be receiving the follow-up. All right, I'm going to end the poll here in just 5 seconds. Thank you. All right, Maria will bring you back to be a panelist and we'll take it from there. Hopefully we'll get some video going. Okay,
Not sure.
hang tight for one moment.
Okay.
Is it possible to join from your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and try that? That might work better.
Okay, sorry.
All right, guys, hang tight. This is a good time to get a drink of water, take care of any personal needs, and then we'll be starting up with Maria here in just a moment. All right, let's go ahead and answer some questions that are coming in here. So, Dr. Suzanne, are you still here? We got some questions and I thought that you could help by answering them.
I am. I'm actually in the chat, in the Q&A right now.
All right, thank you so much. So Steve asked let's address Steve's question here. Steve asked, is the tinnitus treatment a lifelong thing?
It's interesting that you asked that because I have seen some patients where they've come back to me and they're like, I don't hear my tinnitus anymore, which is fantastic. Usually what I've seen is that it is kind of maintenance throughout time. I've had my tinnitus for 6.5 years now. And most of the time it just kind of stays in the background, not really noticeable, but every once in a while I will have a fluctuation where it will catch my attention. And then I am, pulling out my tools and whatnot. I'm trying to stay diligent about keeping those tools on board so that way they're easy to grab for me and I use them in everyday life. And so that is like another little tip that you can do. But it usually is kind of, I find, more maintenance. But it gets to a point where, it's, for me, it's more just like kind of in the background.
Excellent. Maria, if you're here, could you please comment in the chat? Thank you so much. And next question is from David. David says, CBT hasn't worked that well. Really difficult, a lot of difficulty with sleep and insomnia. He's feeling sort of at the end of his tether. Any advice on someone who's feel like they've tried everything and wants help, needs help?
Yeah. Don't give up. I would recommend, a sleep specialist. We have a consultant with our team, Dr. Lullaby, who is talking with patients regarding sleep and insomnia specifically. So they're, all of our specialists on our team can talk to you about what have you done, what has worked, what has not worked, see if we can find any tips or tricks that kind of get you over any stuckness that you're having.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, Maria, you're back. Let's unmute and get started. Excellent. All right, Maria, I need you to unmute. Thank you. All right, guys, hang tight. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Always tough to gather so many people on a technical Zoom. Let's continue with a few more questions. All right. So Meredith asks, what is Treble Health's opinion on headphones for tinnitus management? Dr. Suzanne, can you take that question as well of how should I think about using headphones?
So definitely with headphones, it's a lot easier nowadays that when if you have a like Bluetooth to your phone will actually alert you to if it's being too loud or not. Like I get like a little red symbol. It's like, uh-oh, you're probably getting a little too loud. So keep an eye out for that. I do have an Android phone, so maybe that's a little bit different than iPhone. iPhone has done a really good job. They actually put in volume limiters into their little headphones, which this is so bad I forget the name of them. Um, but they will have volume. So just watch how loud you have it and how long you're using it for, and just be conscious of that.
Thank you. All right, guys, Maria's back. We're going to jump into it. So once she unmutes, we'll get started. All right, Maria, can you hear me?
Finally, yes.
Thank you so much, guys. We have to be persistent. We have to not give up.
Yes,
That's the theme
yes.
of tinnitus. Maria, thank you so much for being here. Let's set the scene. So, why are you on this stage? What's your personal experience with tinnitus,
Okay.
and what's your relationship with Treble Health?
Well, first off, it's great to be here. It's great to be here as a graduate of the program because it was a long journey. So what happened to me was about 3 years ago, I went to a fundraiser that had a very loud sound system, and I was kind of seated right next to it. And when I say loud, it was like extremely loud, like to where the music was so loud you couldn't talk to people next to you, and you were like screaming at them, even if they were like this far away from your face. So that night, I woke up with loud ringing in my head, and it woke me up. And then for about a week or so after that, I was hoping that it was going to go away, but it didn't. So I was not sleeping. I guess it snowballed into a whole several weeks, maybe 6 or 7 weeks of maybe getting an hour or two here and there. But definitely when you talk about the sympathetic nervous system, I was in full on fight or flight and unable to sleep for weeks. And at that time, I visited a local audiologist to try to figure out a way to get better. And she is the first one who introduced me to some sound therapy, but I didn't really feel like um, they knew about me because she was like, oh gosh, we usually just have people that come in here that are old and they have hearing loss. And so you're kind of our only patient that is like with this acute tinnitus. They had people that experienced it, but nothing like I was experiencing. So I felt very alone. Like, how was I the only person in that room that this happened to? And why does nobody know what's going on with me? And why do I feel like the rug got pulled out from my life? I couldn't function. I'll be honest, I couldn't function for weeks to months. It's a good thing at that time I didn't have a job because I would not have been able to go. So I actually, um, found Treble Health online because I am a health professional. I'm a dietitian. So everything I looked for a reason, like, is there a supplement? Is there a natural cure? Is there something I can do? So I poured myself into the internet and trying to find some information about acute onset tinnitus like I had, which was, I felt taking away my life. And at that time, I found Treble Health, watched some YouTubes with Dr. Ben with you, and I was like, okay, this looks good. So I signed up for a free call and actually was surprised that Ben was the one I talked to. And I remember he set me up. He said, this is normal. You're going to be okay. We deal with this every day. And it was just so nice because I hadn't found that before in my local resources here where I live. They were helpful, but I just felt like I was an outlier. When I got to Treble Health, I realized that I wasn't an outlier. It's what they actually do for people. And so one of the first things I did was set up a meeting with one of the doctors, Dr. Tracy. And I actually was seeing Dr. Tracy at that time and Dr. Suzanne. I was, I felt like I was really needy. I needed them to tell me everything was going to be okay. And I needed them to tell me that I was normal. I was like, is this normal? I just kept saying, is this normal? And so it was nice because they told me, yes, you're in stage 1. So that's the first time I had heard of the stages. And that was super helpful to me. Knowing that there was stages where, like, yes, people don't sleep in the first stage. Like, you are struggling, and this is what happens. You will get to stage 2. For me, stage 2, I wish I had taken some medication early on to help me to sleep and to calm down. But I was like, really holistic and didn't want to do that. So I poo-pooed it, and I wish I hadn't now because I feel like my first couple months of suffering could have been a lot easier had I just, gotten on something that helped me to sleep and helped me to relax sooner. So there's that. But anyway, I started meeting with the Treble Health gals, and then I um, transitioned later to Dr. Ramsey. So I have seen 3 of the practitioners, and I would say that I was seeing them for, it was about 2.5 years. So I was a long-term patient and I just really needed the support. Um, but I guess I just want to give people hope because you do get better. And I needed to hear that in the beginning. I needed to hear that I was going to get better and that things were going to get easier. I still have tinnitus? Yes. I still hear it every day. Most of the day it doesn't bother me, but sometimes it still does. And I actually was wearing sound therapy for the first 3 solid years and got to a point where I only had to wear one. I know that you recommend urinal, I think it's called by ear something, training to put the sound therapy in both ears. And I did that for a long time. I had to sleep with it. It was so loud at night. I had to sleep with and it really helped to sleep with the sound therapy in. It's funny because I went to the um, the Cleveland Clinic here has a, a whole kind of comprehensive approach to look at tinnitus. They have you see a neurologist and an audiologist and a TMJ specialist and all these people. And I felt like the best care I got was from Treble Health. They understood it into a level that even this big facility didn't. Um, they told me that I wasn't supposed to wear it at night, and I went back to Treble Health and I said, "Wait a minute, am I doing something wrong?" And they're like, "No, wearing it at night is 100% perfectly okay." So that was just a little tidbit of, you got to get to the right person. And I just thank God that I did. I felt like Treble Health was my lifeline. I actually don't know what I would have done without you guys. And I just can't thank you enough for being with me through it, giving me hope. And I feel like it really came as a godsend. So I cannot say enough. I cannot say
Wow.
enough.
Wow. This is emotional for me personally. For those listening, I want them to leave with a few insights, mental frameworks to get them through the stages of treatment.
Yep.
course, we can talk about here's what you should do, follow this protocol, use these devices, work with this specialist. But the daily mindset, I think, is really key. And that's something that you can touch on better than I can, Maria. So, any advice for those mental frameworks, ways
Yep.
to approach this that get you through your day feeling like yourself,
Right.
even though it's really hard?
Right. So for me, I had to have a major mind shift in the beginning about medication. Um, this was a huge hurdle for me. I didn't want to have to take anything because I was trying to go the holistic route. I've always been that way. I realized that there's a time and place. So for like a benzodiazepine, for like I guess I have to be honest and say that that was a huge hurdle for me. My regular doctor also didn't want to put me on something like that that was going to help calm my nervous system. And it took months and extra suffering. And finally, I went to a psychiatrist because my sister forced me to. And I'm so glad she did. And she said, "We need to get you some real help. Your doctor's not helping." And this was just my regular PCP, not you guys. Um, so I had tried, supplements. I had tried CBD oil. I had tried even like little marijuana gummies. Nothing was doing the trick to get me to try to calm down and sleep. Finally, so that was a huge hurdle for me, the mindset of having to accept help when it was there. I finally did get on, I think it was Ativan, and that was something that I took for probably 8 months. It was a beginning dose of like several pills a day, and then it went down to 3 pills, then 2 pills, then 2 half pills, and I got off. So some people might not resonate with that type of journey, but I always thought to myself, if I ever get to be a speaker at Treble Health, I'm going to talk about medication because it needs to be brought up. And I felt like for someone like me that didn't want and always had a stigma around medications. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way was brought up, or who knows what. But I didn't want to be on them, and that helped me to regain my parasympathetic nervous system. It helped me get back to that. So that was a mindset shift, and then also the day to day living now. The mindset shift is um, using the techniques that you guys taught me. And actually, right before I was in Treble Health, I did a program for our local high school where I initiated some mindfulness and anxiety and stress techniques. And it was funny because I wasn't an anxious person. I couldn't relate. I brought them to the high school. I know the kids were anxious, and around COVID, it was definitely something that we helped the kids with, to bring these patterns and learn how to self regulate. But I was like, I'm good. I never had anxiety, I'll be honest, before this. And I feel like Dr. Suzanne, this was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. So I had to implement the techniques that I had been teaching the kids and really like the deep breathing. You can put yourself into a parasympathetic, which means rest and digest mode on your own. You can do it with deep breathing and sometimes with exercise. But for me, the greatest one was just inhaling for like 7 seconds and exhaling as long as I could, like something more than 7 seconds. So that was what I do. I inhale and then I breathe out for like maybe 15 seconds. So the exhale, longer than the inhale for me, initiates and engages my parasympathetic nervous system and helps me relax. So I did that a lot, and I still do that a lot. On the days when my tinnitus gets worse and I have certain spikes, and I do even 3 years in, I just deep breathe like that. And I also have to realize that um, everyone has crosses that they bear, and this is mine. So that's I have a religious twist to it. I feel like I'm a better person now, and I'm from the suffering I've been through. Um, the things that happened with my family, the closeness I gained with my parents, the closer relationships I have with my siblings now because they saw me suffer, is something that I wouldn't change. So my journey is an emotional one, but I got through it, and I'm living I remember Dr. Ramsey after 2.5 years in and seeing Treble Health monthly. It was weekly, then it went to bi-monthly, then it went to monthly. At that monthly time, I think I was seeing her for over a year. And she's finally like, I think you're good. I think you don't need to see me anymore because you're no longer a tinnitus patient. Now you are a person living with tinnitus. And she was right. And I didn't like the breakup at first, but I feel like um, I'm a person living with tinnitus, and you can do it. You can do it. And I just want to say that all those things out there that look like easy cures and quick fixes and, oh, take this supplement or do this laser treatment. I was going for all that stuff and it was all scams. But Treble Health is not a scam. What they're teaching you is how to live lifelong with this. Um, don't hesitate, use them. I mean, I've, again, you guys are my lifeline.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. Really helpful. For everyone who's listening, let's give a virtual round of applause and show our love and support. There are emojis you can click. There are these little react buttons down low, so don't hesitate. There we go, Maria. Look at this.
Thank
So
you.
the reason we're doing this is to highlight that this is a hard condition to live with at times, that there are things you can do. Like you said, you went to a place like the Cleveland Clinic, which is supposed to take care of patients
Right.
better than anyone else. And even there, there's a lack of direct care or effective full person treatment for the individual. So I think this is highlighting the problem that most of the 268 people who are live with us on Zoom right now have felt, which is, this is really hard. I need this to get better. What should I do? And you shared some of the mental frameworks, the hope, the encouragement, and that means the world to us. So Maria, thank you so much. And I really personally appreciate you coming back and sharing your story. Keep it up, maintain your progress, and let's talk soon, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, guys. So if you're in the East Coast, United States, this is midday. If you're in the West Coast, good morning. I wanted to highlight that Maria mentioned that she worked with our team at Treble Health. This summit is sponsored or put on by Treble Health, which is a practice that I started. I loved helping people who are really suffering with tinnitus. I started Treble Health. That was about 6 years ago. Started with a YouTube channel. Many of you guys have watched those videos. We've seen over 2,500 patients through comprehensive treatment. And that the conversation with Maria is just highlighting that there are things you can do. There are doctors you can speak with. So I wanted to give a special opportunity for you guys that you can schedule a free consultation with a doctor on my team, specifically myself. You can talk to me, Dr. Ramsey, who worked with Maria, or my brother, Garrett, who's also a doctor on our team. If you click the link there, you'll talk to some of the 3 best tinnitus specialists in the country, and you can do so at no cost over Zoom. So if you're in the United States and you want to see what you can do, what can be personalized, a lot of your questions that were coming through for Maria, they really depend on some follow-up questions that need to be personalized for you. So we want to offer one-on-one consultations. If you're interested in having a result that Maria had and want to speak to a doctor, you can scan your computer right now with this QR code, or you can check the link in the chat where you can find an opportunity to schedule. I just put the link right there in the chat. Schedule a consultation with a doctor from Treble Health using this link that's available to individuals in the United States. What you'll see when you click that link is it will go to a page like this where you'll be able to schedule the consultation. Today, there's 7 consultation slots available. I expect those to go quick because there's 270 people here. So I would encourage you guys to do this as soon as possible by clicking the link in the description or by scanning this code from your phone if you're looking at a computer or a laptop right now. Now that's been introduced, we're going to, in 1 minute, transition to our next guest speaker who deserves a proper introduction, and is going to give you guys a great experience. Next up here at the summit, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tricia Scaglione. We are both here in our South Florida Tinnitus Clinic, and we're here doing this virtual summit with you guys across the world. Dr. Tricia has an amazing background that I'll explain right now. She was the lead tinnitus specialist at University of Miami Health in South Florida. She's on the scientific advisory committee, the board there with the American Tinnitus Association. She's deeply involved in the patient care, helping people day to day. And she also is involved with the research and grants to fund through the ATA, different solutions, more research. And she today works with Treble Health full-time at our clinic in South Florida. So with all that to say, I'm incredibly proud and so excited to introduce Dr. Tricia Scaglione. Her talk today is Science-Based Tinnitus Treatment, What Works Today and What's Coming Tomorrow. So let's give a round of applause for Dr. Tricia.
Thank you so much, Ben. And hi, everyone. As Ben mentioned, I'm Dr. Tricia. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen for you, some slides that I have here. And so, as Ben mentioned, I am a clinician, but
sorry to interrupt, Tricia. Would you mind going to the slides to the left and then going to present mode?
Sure. Is it not showing present mode?
Just the top Google slides and then present mode.
I'm in Word doc. I'm using that. Could you not see it?
Okay. We can see it. And yeah, we can see it.
Do you also see the bottom slides, or do you just see the big slide?
We just see the main slides. Yep. I think you're good. I may just come over there next to you and optimize it for a second. But yeah, continue on.
Sounds great. So as Ben was mentioning, I am a clinician. I'm a clinician here at Treble Health. I have 16 plus years of working with healthcare and different audiology patients, as well as with tinnitus patients. You're going to see Dr. Ben's right here. See, we were not lying. We are both in the same screen. So, so perfect. We'll change it out.
You need the notes?
It'd be great if we could. And so I've been working with patients for, as I mentioned, over 16 years, patients who have tinnitus, that have sound sensitivities, but also a big passion of mine lies within tinnitus research as well. So I am intimately involved with the American Tinnitus Association. It is a nonprofit organization for tinnitus patient education, as well as helping patients find providers that help in their local community. And also we fund research. We fund this important research patients want to hear all the time. What is going on? Why is there not a cure? Why is there not research taking place for tinnitus? And there certainly is. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to stop sharing just for a minute, and I'm going to reshare my slides for you. So hopefully it's a better viewing experience for you. And I'm very sorry that for the inconvenience here. Technology, it's great when it wants to work, and when it doesn't, it can be a little bit of a hiccup. So hopefully that looks better for you there. So so we're going to talk about, I want to reassure you that there is lots of research that's happening all the time, all around the world, from all different clinicians and researchers who really want to find that cure. It really breaks my heart when I hear other healthcare when I go on some of these forums or I see feedback from patients that get frustrated and say, we've heard all of this already. Why isn't there an answer? And why isn't anybody working on this? And again, I cannot drive home the point that we are trying to find that answer every single day. And even studies that may seem very small and very insignificant may not, it may not be, it may not seem like a lot to you, but in the clinical world, in the research world, even those really small pieces of research can be so imperative to helping us reach our ultimate goal of curing tinnitus and curing sound sensitivities. So In terms of myself, just very briefly, there's a lot of letters after my name, right? And I only put this on this slide here. Usually at Treble, we keep ourselves down to like Dr. Trisha, Dr. Ben, but many of us have many different areas of specialization, especially in tinnitus. So I'm involved in many different organizations, hold different higher level certifications, specifically in tinnitus management, and have also I'm serving as a chair of a tinnitus guideline for a national organization. Um, I um, I also serve as a validation panelist for a training program for tinnitus specialists. And why am I sharing this with you? The reason why I share this with you is because I am so passionate about tinnitus education for patients, for providers, and to be able to give that education, we have to know what's the latest research that's out there. So let's take a step back. The big picture here is you're not alone. You may feel you're alone. You may feel isolated with this like invisible sound that you're having in your head or your ears. And oh my gosh, it's probably driving so many of you crazy or feel like it's just you've lost control of your life because of it. But over 50 million people in the US alone experience tinnitus. Look at our group right now. Look at this session. Let's see, what do we have? We have 276 people alone logged on right now watching this session. And we have almost 1,000 people that registered to be able to watch this after the fact. I have tinnitus. Dr. Suzanne has tinnitus. Many, many people have tinnitus, and I can assure you it absolutely can be managed. No matter how bothersome it seems like it is for you, no matter when it started, tinnitus can be improved, and our team is here for you. There's many tinnitus specialists here that really, really want to help support you. So, quick overview. I'm going to give you a brief overview about what we know works, and then a glimpse into some of the research that's being done for tinnitus right now. I'm very passionate about going to international tinnitus research conferences where all of the clinicians, the scientists, the researchers, the physicians are just gathering to be able to talk about the latest and greatest that they are working on in their labs and in their clinics. And so it's really great when I see these come to fruition and when I see the studies published and when we can start using them in our clinics, especially here, right here in the US at Treble, and even in our telehealth services. So what do we know? What works? Well, some of the tried and true are ear level sound generators, ear level amplification devices. You might hear them called tinnitus devices. You might hear them called as maskers. And these devices have been shown to be very, very helpful for patients with tinnitus. Reason being is that your tinnitus, while it may feel like it's in your ears, it's actually happening in a processing center of the brain. And when we give our ears and our brain something soothing, something relaxing to listen to, it can help to distract from the tinnitus. And that's just one component, one layer of how sound therapy or access to sound can be beneficial. It can also help to promote neural changes in the brain that can help us habituate or get used to the sound. You might be thinking, what's habituation? Habituation is getting used to something. Think about the shirt that's on your body. Without looking at it, without touching it, you can visualize or you can think about how that shirt is on your body. But before I brought it up, you weren't thinking about it because you were habituated to it. And we can do that with our tinnitus. And so when we wear hearing aids, when we wear sound therapy devices, what we're also doing is we're helping to reduce the contrast between a quiet environment and the perception of the tinnitus. A great analogy of this is called a candle analogy. If I took a candle and I lit it and put it on a table in a room with you, it's just you and I standing there, and I turn the lights off, your eyes are going to be drawn to that candle because it is the most interesting thing in the room. But if I turn the lights on and I fill the table with a number of different things, that candle's still burning the same brightness, but your perception, you're not as focused on that because there's so much going on. And so that's what we do with sound therapy. That's what we do with amplification. That's what we do with when we use sound enrichment with helping through tinnitus training. The emotional toll, the mental toll that tinnitus can also play on us, the psychological component is so important. And this can be treated through what we call cognitive and behavioral interventions. There's cognitive behavioral techniques that we use right here at Treble Health. There's a type of mental health therapy, and cognitive behavioral techniques are based off of a concept called treatment called cognitive behavioral therapy. How we think, how we act, how we feel, they're all intertwined. And so if we think that our tinnitus is the worst thing ever and it's never going to get better, our behavior is that we may start to withdraw from certain environments. And then how we're acting is maybe we're being moody to those around us. Maybe we're withdrawing from socialization or working or things we once enjoyed because of this perception of hearing this sound in our brain, when really no one told us we had to stop doing those things. And so sometimes we can accidentally set up these subconscious or conscious hurdles for ourselves because of our tinnitus. And through cognitive behavioral techniques or modifications or cognitive behavioral therapy or mindfulness, we can help to retrain the psychological component that is associated with the negative perception, the negative aspects of the tinnitus. This is also tied into our lifestyle. So our day-to-day routines, our sleep, our dietary habits, our exercise. If we aren't taking care of ourselves as a whole person, then we're not setting ourselves up for 100% success. The cognitive behavioral therapy or cognitive behavioral techniques can be very important with integrating it with our lifestyle. If we can use a form of CBT specifically for sleep issues called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, we can use components of mindfulness and guided breathing and relaxation to help us sleep better, to help us have better control of our anxiety or stress. We can work with different specialists, such as your tinnitus specialist, but also nutritionists or our primary care, about how we can improve our lifestyle, our diets. If we have other health conditions that are not being managed, like thyroid issues, high blood pressure, all of this can be tied into tinnitus. And so we know, evidence-based, that if we are exercising, you have a greater chance of your tinnitus being less disturbing. If we are cutting back on caffeine and alcohol and sodium, some of these triggers for tinnitus, there's evidence to show that some individuals respond very positively in the sense that their tinnitus is lowered. If we engage in activities like Suzanne was saying before about our autonomic nervous system and our stress system and our relaxation system in our brain, the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, by engaging in relaxing activities and meditation, we can activate those centers in the brain and cause positive reactions in the body that in turn can help us to reduce our awareness and disturbance to our tinnitus. There's all scientific evidence that support this.
Tricia, would you like, if you're sharing your slides, you will need to go ahead and reshare them, please.
They stopped sharing?
Currently, we're not seeing the slides, so go ahead and share them. Thank you.
Okay, it's saying shared on my end, so I'll go ahead and reshare them on you. I'm on the Google Docs one. Let's see. Have you seen any of the slides?
I'll jump in there. I'm coming in, guys. We're live in Florida.
It's showing that it's sharing. I'm sorry, everybody. My screen shows it's shared. I'm on Google Docs and it's green and sharing. So the other option is bioneural modulation. So this is quite a hot topic in terms of evidence-based tinnitus treatment for patients. The most current one that there's a lot of buzz around is by a company called Neuromod, and they have a device called linear. And then Dr. Susan Shore and her University of Michigan team has the Oracle device that's not yet released clinically. It's still in its research stages, but it should be close to, it's something we're waiting to hear when it will be released. And what this evidence shows is that we can take an approach through what's called bioneuromodulation. Bioneuromodulation is using two types of stimulus to stimulate our brain to promote these neural changes, these brain changes to disrupt that tinnitus signal. And so in the linear device, that's the picture you see on the screen here, they're using an acoustic or auditory stimulus on the ears, coupled with a tactile type of sensation through the tongue, and stimulating both the trigeminal nerve and the auditory nerve. And then the Oracle device, the one that's still being researched, but there's evidence behind it to support it, is also using acoustic stimulus along with a physical stimulus to the neck area. So stimulating another type of cranial nerve to help promote this disruption of the tinnitus. Now, these are all great options for tinnitus management. And patients sometimes say to me, well, Dr. Trisha, what's better? Is it sound therapy? Is TRT better, or amplification better, or bioneuromodulation? And there's really not a one size fits all for our patients. That realistically, what happens is that these devices do have the science supporting that these can be effective tools for patients, but the number one means of therapy or treatment for tinnitus is actually cognitive behavioral therapy. That's shown the most evidence to help with tinnitus, reducing tinnitus distress. But all of the options we've talked about so far can all have shown to be able to promote improvement in individuals that have tinnitus. So what's next? What's that next step? What's coming tomorrow? And hopefully you can see these slides right now. What's coming tomorrow is, as I mentioned, I'm on the ATA. We fund a number of studies. If you did not see the podcast with myself, Dr. Ben, and Patrick Lynch, the CEO from ATA, that was recently published, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of it. So there's a study by Dr. Sedley who is looking at non-invasive stimulation methods that we can use for patients. So electrical type of stimulation or different kinds of auditory stimulation, and looking at, is early intervention better? Is there a certain time frame that we should be doing these treatments to have greater impact on our patients? Or do we wait? Do we wait if a patient's a new onset of tinnitus? Do we hold off on starting this treatment right away? And the reason that might be is because there is an acceptable period of when you have a new onset of tinnitus, new onset of it, that it may spontaneously resolve. So, looking at these studies of when is the right time to implement treatment. Then there's studies looking at our genetics, our genetic molecules, our genes, our DNA, and are there any kind of markers that show that there's predisposition to tinnitus? And if so, if we can find these genetic markers, how can we use these to set up a management plan, a monitoring plan? Or is there one treatment that would be more effective for certain genetic markers and maybe a different treatment for a different type of genetic marker? We have Dr. Sederoth, who is studying the objective diagnosis of tinnitus. Right now, so much of the workup and the diagnosis of tinnitus is subjective, of what you as a patient are telling your tinnitus specialist. And yes, we have hearing tests, we have otoacoustic emissions, we have these different tests that test the auditory pathways, but we're really limited as to what are actual objective types of testing. Like, if you break your arm, you go in an X-ray and you can see a broken bone, or if you have an MRI, and an MRI might show a growth or a tumor. But where are our objective types of tests that can show us if we definitively have tinnitus? So Dr. Sederoth is taking a look at that. We have Dr. Vanderwall, who is looking at optimizing screening tools that can be used for healthcare providers to help get you be more efficiently diagnosed with tinnitus, to be able to get you into a management plan faster than what you may be experiencing now. And then I would argue that the majority of our tinnitus specialists that are going to speak today will say that the majority of their patients report some degree of sleep disturbance in terms of their tinnitus. I would say 90% of my patients find that their sleep is disrupted from their tinnitus. And so Dr. Guillard is looking at what is this interaction between sleep and tinnitus? And is there a proper amount of sleep that we need to get to have a lesser awareness of our tinnitus, to be more effective in terms of tinnitus management? Is there this perfect number, this window that we should have? And really, you know, his studies are just so important because my patients will tell me they hear it before bed, or when they wake up in the morning, they are having their tinnitus, or if they lay down for a nap, suddenly their tinnitus is louder. So Dr. Guillard is really trying to work on finding out more information about what is this correlation between sleep and tinnitus, and how can we maximize the findings from this to help the larger population of tinnitus patients. The ATA just recently funded some more researchers in terms of for their research studies. And this is just a brief overview. It's, again, my idea here was to share, my intention is to share the fact that we look at a wide range of studies that can be conducted for the tinnitus patient. There's one looking at virtual reality therapy and how VR can be used in coupling with cognitive behavioral therapy to maximize those outcomes for patients with significant anxiety and depression from their tinnitus. There's a study looking at new protocols for sound therapy. There, depending on the device you use, there's going to be different protocols for sound therapy. What frequencies we use, how do we shape the sound, what is the duration, what is the volume? And so this researcher here is looking to see, is there a protocol that can be put in place to streamline how sound therapy is delivered for maximum tinnitus relief? There's also studies, again, going back to genes, looking at our genes and our genetic makeup to see how does it play into a center of the brain called the dorsal cochlear nucleus, and where we have this hyperactivity in the brain that results in tinnitus. And I'll share that the DCN, the dorsal cochlear nucleus, is really important when it comes to those of you patients that may be having what we call somatic tinnitus, or tinnitus that can be modulated or changed with certain head movements, jaw movements, or different tactile senses within the body. And then online quizzes to help to screen you for your tinnitus, looking again at biomarkers and looking at other kinds of higher level centers in the brain to get a better idea of tinnitus. You know, why does this matter? I just said a whole mouthful to you. I know I seemed like I was saying a lot fast. I'm sorry. I know we were a little bit behind before, so I was trying to make up for some of that time, but it matters. These different studies matter because the perception I often hear from patients is we need to regenerate the hair cells in the ears. And if we regenerate those, we're going to solve tinnitus. We're going to cure tinnitus. And yes, regenerating hair cells in the cochlea, the inner ear, is so important. And that is so important when it comes to research. But that's only going to be a piece of the puzzle, because hair cells contributing to the onset of tinnitus there's certainly a link there, but it's not the only link. So while we continue to work on regenerating those hair cells, our researchers have to also continue to look at the function of the brain, the different processing centers of the brain that are tied to the tinnitus, and how are they tied to the tinnitus, and how are they tied to these different treatments that potentially have positive outcomes for patients. And again, our screening tools, because when you go to see a healthcare specialist, How can we most effectively and efficiently identify your tinnitus, diagnose it, and give you the best individualized care plan to optimize resolving your tinnitus, improving your tinnitus, or hopefully one day resolving, or one day the goal is to eliminate the tinnitus. So with that, I want to share that hopefully this instills some hope and some excitement in you that there's lots of studies going on. This is just a fraction of studies that are currently going on right now in terms of tinnitus, but we know that there are evidence-based types of programs and treatments that can provide you with relief. So while we work on that cure, don't let that hold you back from seeking help with a tinnitus specialist and using some of these techniques that are already proven to provide relief.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tricia. Let's give a round of applause, show our love and appreciation. We have our first question here, a few questions. So first question is from Joel. Joel asks, can you please comment on the status of research of cochlear stimulation and vagal nerve stimulation? Any status on those research updates?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'm going to focus more right now on, I'll start with the cochlear nerve. So there are some studies that are looking at and have looked at the cochlea, stimulation of the cochlea, the inner ear organ, the cochlear nerve, especially through the use of cochlear implants for the use of helping individuals who have hearing loss that's too severe to benefit from a traditional hearing aid. And through stimulating the cochlea and the inner in the nerve, it's been shown to be effective in some patients in reducing tinnitus. So that's definitely had some positive findings there. And in terms of the vagus nerve, there's been a lot of studies that have looked at the vagus nerve. Our vagus nerve runs pretty much through pretty much all of our organs in our body and is such an important nerve. Dr. Susan Shore's device, if I stand corrected, please feel free to correct me, but my understanding is that hers actually her device is looking at stimulating the vagus nerve along with the auditory nerve to produce relief in the brain from tinnitus. And there are some other studies besides Dr. Shore's that have also been investigating stimulating the vagus nerve. So yes, definitely some forward movement looking at in that area.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we have some more questions coming in regarding hair cell regeneration. Could you give a quick recap on if that's possible, what it could do, and if it's still being researched today?
Yeah, so yes, it's absolutely being researched. It's certainly a hot topic in otolaryngology, which is a fancy name for ENT, and audiology. Anything related to hearing loss, hair cell regeneration is something we researchers are definitely doing a deep dive into. So far, they have been able to regenerate hair cells in certain types of birds. And I also believe it was in chinchillas as well. So, those guys are lucky that they've had those hair cells regenerated. But so far, there hasn't been regeneration in humans, but that is certainly the intention. And the idea behind if we're able to regenerate the cells in the ear, this can help to restore hearing. It can help to restore proper function of sound transmission from the outside world up to the brain, the neural transmission from the inner ear organ to the brain. And all that's just so important because abnormal sound transmission, abnormal neural activity that can come from disrupted hair cells in the ear, damaged hair cells in the ear, can result in the perception of tinnitus. So hair cell regeneration is definitely going to be key for many of our tinnitus sufferers. Not everyone has hair cells as damaged hair cells as a root cause to their tinnitus, but for those who do have a cochlear underlying root cause, it could certainly be a really great it'll be a really great breakthrough when that comes through.
And then could you please share about your plans this winter at the Florida clinic? I'll be here as well. And we wanted to share with everyone that a lot of you guys spend some time in Florida in the winter, or if you're in Florida, Treble Health actually has a clinic where Dr. Tricia and I are working together this winter. So could you please share more details about who would be a good person to come to the clinic, whether they live in Florida or they're a snowbird coming down for some of the winter?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are looking to come to South Florida to be able to come down here for some warmth, which I have to laugh since we are having a temporary cold snap right now, but typically it's warm and really beautiful, or you live in, I would say, the state of Florida in general, and you are looking for tinnitus support, you want to have that in-person experience, I welcome you to come into our South Florida Weston location where Dr. Ben and I are. I have patients that come all the way from Pensacola. I frequently have patients from the Central Florida, Orlando, Melbourne area that drive in to see me. I have, you don't have to live in Florida to come to the Florida clinic if you're just looking for an excuse to be able to have a little getaway. I've had patients that say, I want it to be a little vacation for me. You can come in, we can do your hearing test, do your initial consult. If you decide to move forward with treatment that involves devices, I can program your devices for you here, and then we can continue your treatment through telehealth, unless you prefer to be able to travel back to the Florida location. But we offer comprehensive services here and would absolutely welcome anyone looking to manage their tinnitus to come on in. And, if you want to have a one-on-one consult with myself or anyone on our team about our Florida services, we can do that through telehealth first, and then identify if coming into the Florida clinic would be the best fit for you. So, feel free to schedule that online consult and we can start that conversation.
Thank you guys so much. And as you're in the chat, you can look in the chat right here where you can see I just put that link, South Florida's premier tinnitus treatment clinic. You can schedule a free telehealth consultation over Zoom and speak with Dr. Tricia. If you're in the Florida area, I would highly recommend doing so. Guys, one last virtual round of applause for Dr. Tricia Scaglione. Thank you so much for your great presentation about what's working now and what's to come in the future. Thanks so
Great.
much.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Next up, we have Michael. Michael, great to see you. Excellent. If you could adjust your audio, I just want to make sure that's coming in. Check the microphone, make sure that's coming through. And then if you want to tilt your camera down slightly, that would be great. All right, Michael, can you hear me? Check 1, 2. I cannot hear you. So would you mind changing your audio input, your microphone? There we go. Try that one. Thank you so much.
Any better?
Right. That is. Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Try that. Get to wear the headset. How fun.
Excellent. All right, guys. So quick introduction. This is Michael. He's a senior vice president and senior commercial banking officer. But today he's here to talk about his ears. And that's exactly what we'll focus on. Why are we bringing Michael in? Not because he's a doctor. In fact, he's someone that doctors have helped. He's someone who's walked this path with his ears, and he's going to share advice, insights, things that could help his younger self when he was in the earlier part of his tinnitus hearing journey. So, Michael, would you care to share more details about
Sure.
How did you, what did you go through, and what are the key points that you'll highlight today for everyone listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So my sister, about 2 years younger than me, has had hearing loss and tinnitus for years. And so I was aware of it. My tinnitus started about 4.5 years ago, relatively mild, both ears. I didn't do anything about it, but in my reading, my greatest fear was that it was going to continue to get worse. It was handleable at that point, but I really was worried about it getting worse over time. And so I started to look at some options. You guys came up as an excellent option of some folks that were really looking into the issue and trying to find some real solutions. I spoke to audiologists here in Traverse City, Michigan, where I live, and got no real assistance at all. More of a, it's just something you're going to have to live with. There's not anything we can do. I actually spoke to some audiologists at Mayo Clinic as well. I had some other appointments there a couple years ago and went and did an audio test there. hearing test there, and kind of got the same impression. There's not much we can do about tinnitus. And so I was very pleased to get in touch with you guys and start the program there. Diana, I felt was just very empathetic and compassionate and knowledgeable, and was able to really kind of guide me through. What I really wanted was to understand the triggers, because my tinnitus really comes and goes. It can be there all the time, but the impact on me comes and goes. I feel it sometimes, that it just is really disruptive, and other times I'm really not noticing it at all. So Diana was really able to help me work on what those triggers are and try to mitigate those. For me, alcohol was a trigger. I'm not a big drinker, but if I would go out to a couple events on the course of a weekend, as bankers do, they tend to go someplace where they're holding a glass of Chardonnay. I would, that 2 or 3 days later, my tinnitus would ramp up to the point where I'd have a hard time sleeping. I felt that sugar was also a piece of that. Eating sugar and doing something to the blood flow of those ears was causing it. I have a very stressful job, and so the stress as well, I felt had a great impact on it. I also have had TMJ for years, so those were kind of the 4 areas that I focused on with Diana. The program I really liked. I'm a big fan of trying to do something to help yourself through issues like this, whether it's a back problem and finally going to the chiropractor, or a therapy issue and finally going through talk therapy. My idea of doing something to try to promote it and put some time and effort into it myself really seems to help over time. Being helpless and feeling like nothing can be done and not doing anything about it because of that, I don't find very effective at all. I think so. I've really enjoyed the program so far. I've enjoyed the time with Diana. I also go on your the YouTube channel and have found some great effect to the couple of YouTubes
Sound
that you
therapies.
have. What's that? The sound
sound
therapies.
therapies?
Yeah, the silk for a long time. I really like the silk, especially at night as I'm going to bed. And now there's shimmer, I think, which is a little bit different. And so I'm using both of those periodically. So that's a good start, I think. My sister has not really been interested in trying some of these modalities to try to figure out something on her. I think hers has maybe faded over time, and she's not so concerned about it. So I'll leave that and we can talk a little bit more.
Excellent. So let's jump into where are you today, and going back to where this was more of an issue for you. What has actually changed? Is it the volume? Is it the intensity, the awareness of the sound? Talk about your results so far.
Yeah. So I think there were times in the last 3 or 4 years where it got to the point where I really was having a hard time sleeping. And the idea that the concentration and the focus on it, my tinnitus seems to be obviously more prevalent when I'm thinking about it and when I'm not doing something else. I'm a fairly energetic guy. I got lots going on during the day, but when I settle down and want to relax a little bit, that's when I really start to notice it. And so getting to the point where the noticeable periods were suppressed, and being able to put on the little earphones and listen to the sound that we came up with through the therapy, allowed those things to be lower and lower over time. And I've had months where I just really don't notice it anymore. I've had other times where it comes back with a vengeance because I, go out for a couple nights in a row and have a little something to drink, or the stress level rises. And that's kind of where I move into some of the other things that you've got there, the YouTube videos and that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. And did you
Good
have a
progress
hearing
over
loss?
the
Did
years.
you have a hearing loss, Michael?
No, high areas of the spectrum have faded. I'm 62 years old, and so I have noticed some of that hearing, but I don't see that hearing. It's just in the hearing test, so not having any real hearing loss from my standpoint.
And with sound therapy, use the devices. For someone who doesn't know what that means at all, what would be your simple explanation of what that actually feels like from the user perspective?
The difference between the current sound that I have in my ears versus shimmer or silk or the couple of settings on the devices, in my mind, it's really the immediate effect is you're proactively putting something that you understand in there and listening to that. And the effect is you forget about the actual physical tinnitus that's coming in your ears. When you take those things off, there is a palpable improvement in how you're affected by that tinnitus. You get this immediate improvement when you remove that sound, and all of a sudden it's quiet again. And I put those on for an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes when I'm sitting and reading. Anytime when I'm relaxing and the tinnitus is ramped up again, I use those.
Sounds to me like you went through a treatment period and now you're in more of a management period of if things pick up, then you'll have tools to manage it.
I've got some techniques.
What's your advice to someone who is, let's say, 6 months into this, they have significant sleep problems, they have tried a few things on their own and it hasn't gotten any better. What kind of tools would you use if you were in that situation?
Yeah, I think I would do kind of all of those things. I would kind of analyze what the triggers are, right? The alcohol is something that I can suppress in almost all instances and just have a non-alcoholic drink or something. The fact that the alcohol pops into my tinnitus a day or two after I drink, I think is unique and unusual, but I can definitely notice the little lag. So figuring that out a little bit, the stress and the jaw. I use a mouth guard at night, but sometimes when I'm watching a movie in the evening, I will fall asleep on the couch without the mouth guard in, and I'll wake up and the jaws are tight and clenched. That seems to bring it back. Focusing on using the night guard when I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie. So if I fall asleep, I don't end up in that position. Doing all the things that I can do to suppress it, and then using the sound therapies as often as I can when I have a little extra time on the couch, whenever it is, picking those up, putting them in my ears. And then realizing in the evenings when I'm going to bed, I usually won't put those devices in. I usually use the YouTube and the phone next to the pillow and have that sound going. And it really does take away the issue and let me go to sleep. Because those things, the shimmer and the silk, the shimmer certainly for now is very effective. It seems to really hit just that place ultimately.
We have our
So I would
first
say,
question. We have our
yeah.
first question coming in. Mike says, so Michael, how much time were you using the devices in your ears and did you use them daily? And maybe you can comment on when you were following the protocol closely versus now when things are more resolved.
Yeah, during the first probably 6 months of the process, I tried to use it 3 or 4 times a week for several hours. I think in the evening, easy to use, easy to put in my ears. I can still hear the TV and everything else. It's just background noise, so that worked just fine. I'm now using it probably twice a week. When it kind of flares a little bit, I will put them back in. I've moved them up to the bedroom from where I kept them in the office in the basement so that I can easily kind of put them in when I have extra time now. But it's definitely down from where it was.
Excellent. And then my question for you, Michael, is you mentioned this idea of, hey, I'm struggling with this. There are professionals that seem to help some patients. What does that mean? What's the meaning of that for everyone here? Talk to the people who are struggling with tinnitus or similar issues of what that means for them.
Yeah, I was very surprised, to tell you the truth, to go to my audiologist and have them just kind of punt the idea. That there was no expertise there or even techniques or kind of next steps out of that. And frankly, I think Mayo Clinic is an amazing institution for all kinds of things, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't come up with 4 or 5 little techniques and things to do. She was an audiologist. I went through the hearing tests. Finding a group like you guys that realize that this is physical, it's emotional, It's physiological, it's mental, it's got lots of components. You can hit it from a lot of different directions. Each and every one of your clients and patients here, I think, have a slightly different form, a slightly different sound. Somebody mentioned the pulsating. I really don't have the pulsating, though I have had it a couple times in the last year, but it goes away in a day or two. I equate that to the alcohol as well. I'm not a big drinker, by the way, just to say that. But I would say that having somebody that is focused and concentrates on this and really realizes some successes and can share those successes, that this can be managed and it doesn't necessarily need to get worse over time, and it can be reduced. That's very helpful.
Guys, let's get a few more questions in. So put them in the chat or go into the Zoom Q&A section. Next question is from Maureen. Maureen McCafferty asks, Michael, did you change your diet or take any supplements like for blood glucose or something else?
Yeah, the only dietary things I did was to really cut out the evening sugar, the grabbing of a candy bar, or even some of the granola and the power bars and the other stuff that we used to take to kind of get rid of the munchies in the evening when we're watching a movie or something, have a lot of sugar in them. And so that's the only dietary thing that I did, was to reduce the sugar intake. And just every time I kind of reach for one of those things, just to say, hey, I just don't need the hassle, in 24 hours of hearing the tinnitus flare back up.
Thank you. And Errol asks, hey, Mike, do you think that your tinnitus originated from the ear or the brain?
I think, I've had a lifetime of TMJ and jaw issues. I clench my jaw. If I fall asleep in a chair for 10 minutes, I wake up with, angry jaws and irritated jaws. And so I really think that that's probably the original source of this. Magnified by the stress levels generally, and kind of my general stressy kind of type A kind of personality. But I think the jaw was the original origin of this problem.
And then talk us through your approach to sound therapy. It seems like you found a few sounds that you use for sleep, and those were sounds from our YouTube channel. But then with the devices, you had some different sounds playing. So what's your advice to someone who's trying to get it right, but not obsess over, trying every single sound out there?
Yeah, the original fitting of the Widex devices was fairly simple. We, I didn't spend a ton of time trying to pick the exact thing that was forever going to work. One, because I figured at some point we could change it if we needed to and revolve into something else. What we picked was very similar to what I hear already. And so I'm able to kind of move that volume up and down to kind of completely mask what I hear in my ear. And so that's kind of, I probably could have spent more time on the front end, but it seemed to make sense to kind of get it going when I was so concerned about back then, and it's worked just fine.
All right, we got a few more questions for you, Michael. Thank you so much. Valerie asks, how long into the therapy until you felt you made progress?
Well, that's a great question. We've probably been doing this 18 months to 2 years probably now. I would think, the mental progress I felt by doing something about it and committing to doing something about it happened pretty immediately. I felt better about the process. I felt like I was under somebody's care, so that, my greatest fear, like I said, was that it was going to get worse and worse and worse over time, so that it would incapacitate somehow. And so, I think within the first couple of months and the first couple of good meetings with Diana, that we kind of got to the point where I felt I could manage it. And that was my primary goal, was to manage it.
And then for individuals who right now are wondering, should I do a formal treatment? Should I try some things on my own? Should I focus on sleep? Should I focus on the anxiety? Should I try hearing aids? It seems like there's a lot of options out there. What was your research of knowledge of options, and how did you ultimately decide to follow this protocol of the sound therapy devices plus the one-on-one sessions, settling the nervous system with the cognitive treatment component as well? Like, for those who are in that phase of trying to get clarity, let's end it with that, and then maybe just one or two other quick questions.
Yeah, it's probably in all of the above, honestly, is that, you want to be able to attack it from as many directions as possible. I appreciated the fact that you have a variety of different kind of programs and systems, and, look at it, from a mental standpoint, look at it from a, what is this? What is this to you, this tinnitus that's come into your life? How does it control? How can you get back in control of it? You've had a lot of different seminars and a lot of different speakers about, different ways to approach this. I kind of think it helped me to have a variety of different techniques to apply to it, honestly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And then D. Gregor asks, what sounds were you using with the WideX units? And that's referring to the devices on the ears. Do you remember what those sounded like exactly?
Yeah, I just picked it right up, but I can't see it now because they're not connected. So it doesn't give me the options. I can't see which one it is. It's kind of number 4 on the list of the little apps down the bottom of the screen. But it's mostly a hiss. For me, it's a hiss. The shimmer seems to have a little bit more of a metallic sound to it that seems to overcome that hiss a little more effectively even than the silk did, that I've been using the silk for 1.5 years at night when I'm sleeping. Like I said, I didn't spend a ton of time that first setup period trying to lock in, which one of those 3 or 4 or 5 options was different or better. The one I think we picked was something that was very close to what I had, what I was feeling. And so it kind of physically masks the sound that I hear.
Excellent. All right. So today you're busy. I see you're at your office. Thanks for doing this in the middle of your day. I also heard that you're up in Traverse City, Michigan. Just so happens, my girlfriend's from Michigan. Went up to Michigan this past summer. We
Really?
went to Traverse City, did hiking, did camping. There's sailing there. Went in the lake. Beautiful place, guys. So just to wrap things up and to put us in the right mindset here, Michael, I want to come back to, why are you here? Why did you volunteer to come to the summit to share and help others? And then what can be maybe 1 or 2 tidbits for everyone listening that they can hold with them, or something they can keep close to their mind as they're entering their next days and weeks managing their ears?
Yeah, I think, you guys kind of confirmed early on that a lot of this is mental. A lot of it is how you handle the problem, how you let the problem take over your life, or categorize and put the problem aside and just say, that's a piece of it. It's not everything. I can deal with this, and I've got experts and people that are interested in helping me deal with this. And so that's probably what I'd leave people with, is that, we may not be able to get rid of this entirely, so it's just gone. I actually don't think it's ever going to go away totally, but it is not impacting my life the way it was a couple years ago because of all the techniques that we've started with.
All right, everyone, let's share our love and our appreciation for Michael, who just gave us some hope and some real insight into, hey, there are things we can do. Look at this. The emojis are going crazy right now. Michael, thank you so much.
I want to make sure I thank Diana too. She's been just very effective.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to your tinnitus doctor on our team, Dr. Diana Viteri. She's open to see new patients via telehealth, and she worked with you via telehealth. We had the devices, we had the one-on-one sessions, you followed the recommendations, and now you're here at the summit. So nice to hang out with you today, and thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, guys, stay with us. We're coming into the final hour of this. the grand finale, you could say. This is the Tinnitus Relief Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Thompson, and I'm a specialist in tinnitus. So are all of the doctors here presenting today. Here's the schedule. We are now most of the way through. And next up, we have Dr. Gail Brenner, who is going to share the topic tinnitus retraining therapy, what you can learn from 30 years of effective treatment, followed right after by me, Dr. Ben, sharing comprehensive tinnitus treatment, the five most important tools and how to master them. Really excited for this next hour. It's going to be great. So just before I introduce Dr. Gail, I'd like to remind everyone here that if you're inspired, you want a more personalized recommendation, you'd like to speak with someone who really knows their stuff, then you can speak with a doctor on my team. Currently, if you scan this link with your phone, or if you go into the chat right now, where we'll put that link for you guys, you can schedule a consultation with myself. That's right. You can actually speak with me over a Zoom call, or my brother, Dr. Garrett, who's also an audiologist on our team at Treble Health, or Dr. Ramsey, who worked with Maria and who's an excellent tinnitus specialist on our team as well. So the three of us are receiving those consultation signups. So if you go to that link on the screen, then you'll see an option to schedule a consultation. And specifically, what you'll be asked to do is pick a date and time. So for today, we have a few more slots left later today. And then tomorrow as well, we have some consultation slots open. So that's something that we're offering to you. And just, again, highlighting that there are things you can do for tinnitus, that this is not set in stone or stuck. You're not stuck with this. There are real doctors that are standing by, able to help you today with either just some simple advice or perhaps a treatment protocol or a treatment plan that you could start as soon as possible. All right. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce Dr. Gail Brenner. Gail, if you could please turn on your video, now is the time.
It's disabled. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Hello, Dr. Gail. Nice to speak with you today.
Hello. Hello. Let me just get a little more light on this
All right.
situation. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any lights in your room? Is that an option?
It is an op. There's plenty of light in my
There we
room.
go. There we go. That's a little better.
How about behind?
Yeah, one behind would be good. And as you get that
Okay.
set up, I'd like to share a quick story for everyone. So I'm going to share here that there's exciting news. So one of the most important people in the history of tinnitus, his name is Dr. Pavel Jastreboff. I started working with him as his student protege in 2020, and others like Dr. Gail have been working with him for decades. And in 2026, it's going to be announced that he'll get the Lifetime Career Achievement Award with the National Audiology Conference. And what that means is that he's being recognized as one of the most important researchers, not only in the world of tinnitus, but the entire hearing science field. And that's relevant because at this point, I've spoken with 90% of the best tinnitus doctors and researchers ever that are alive on my podcast. And when I trace back, where did they learn their skills from? Where did these theories come from? It's sort of like, the Amazon River is the main river, and there's all these small offshoots and branches of the river. But if we go back to the source, like the headwaters of tinnitus research seems to always come back to Dr. Jastreboff. And he created the protocol called tinnitus retraining therapy. And that's exactly what Dr. Gail Brenner here will discuss today, what she's learned and the insights she has using it over the last decades. For those who don't know, Gail works as a private practice audiologist in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where she has a clinic where she sees patients. She also sees patients via telehealth. And earlier this year, we announced that Gail's clinic and Treble Health are partnering together. And we're really excited about what that's going to continue to bring to patients in the greater Philadelphia area. So with that, with all that to say, let's pass it over to Dr. Gail Brenner, who will share her talk. And Gail, do you have slides today, or is it presentation? Great. So let's get the slides ready, and then we'll be able to pick things up. And for you guys listening, I would remind you, if you have questions, you can type them in Zoom in the Q&A. If you're here live, type them in the Zoom Q&A section. And then at the end of Gail's talk, I'll be able to ask her those questions. And keep the chat active. We have Dr. Ramsey. We have my brother, Dr. Garrett. We have Dr. Tricia. We're all here in the chat, so don't hesitate. Ask a question. We'll be able to provide some guidance. All right. Now, I'd like to pass the microphone to Dr. Gail Brenner.
Terrific. Now, can you hear me loud enough, or shall I wear the microphone?
The audio is great, and we can see the slides perfectly. You're ready to proceed.
Terrific. Thank you so much for having me today. And this is, of course, my favorite topic. So, and here we go. Thank you so much. So, tinnitus retraining therapy. What can you learn from 30 years of effective treatment? A lot. So it sounds like a clinical talk, because I want you to understand the method, but we really, for treatment, it's really, we take off, as an audiologist, we do have to take off our clinical hat and provide services in a very, very different way. I always say I wear two different hats: my clinical hat, my testing hat, versus my tinnitus hat, and how I work with my patients, which is a very different, it's a very relationship type of treatment, very personal and very, very individual. And that makes all the difference. That's how the recovery and that's how the healing starts, because it's very, very personal. So you already know my introduction. Thank you for such a lovely introduction, and I appreciate that. So today we'll talk about effective treatment protocol, how we can reclaim our lives from tinnitus. There is so much hope, which is what it's all about, and how tinnitus retraining therapy can be very much overlooked. So we're going to learn the TRT foundations, the core points of what makes this treatment work, an application of TRT, and how you can just start using the foundation. So again, this sounds very methodical and structured, but it's very personal. But I want you to know that there is a framework, a method, but it's very, very individualized. So the foundation of tinnitus retraining therapy really came from Dr. Jastreboff. He is a brilliant, world-famous neurophysiologist, and you all may or may not have seen his neurophysiologic model, for which I will not really spend a lot of time looking at today, but to go through it quickly. The periphery, the source, again, there is so much research. We have many different theories where the tinnitus source is or could be: the dorsal cochlear nucleus, areas in the brain, the auditory system, which of course where we always start as the possible cause, but again, the root cause could be different areas. The subconscious part of our brain picks up the signal and goes to our conscious perception. If there is no emotional connection, tinnitus is a non-issue. And for 80% of those who have tinnitus, you're not on this lecture because it's a non-issue. But when there is an emotional connection over here, the limbic system is activated in a negative way, the emotional system, which then reacts or activates the autonomic nervous system. Those are all of our organs, the central nervous system, fight or flight, all the anxiety. Then it becomes a vicious cycle. Then we have to work on bringing down the central nervous system, which Dr. Scaglione talked about, and Dr. May, you know, all of those different techniques, which we'll touch on also. So this is his schematic for the neurophysiologic model, which looks very complicated, and it is, but how we approach it is very personal and interesting, actually. So the core concepts, perception versus annoyance, which is what I was saying. 20% of those who have tinnitus are bothered to a certain degree. So hearing it is one thing versus how much does it annoy us is a different thing completely. We can have it. Okay, there it is. So what? That's one perception versus I hear it, but it really annoys me. And the other core concept is our goal, habituation. That's our long-term goal. And I'm sure you've heard that term before. That's how our brain can learn to filter the tinnitus. This is a core concept. And then how do we get there? Through brain-based processing. It's an educational approach, which is so interesting. And I get excited about it every single time with every patient. It's like it's brand new for me. And hopefully it's exciting for my patient because we go over so much. And that's the two treatment components: directive counseling, reclassifying tinnitus as not important, not significant. It's educating you. It's anatomy, physiology, how we hear, how the brain works. It's so interesting because we want to demystify what is tinnitus, teaching you. It's a teaching method in a structured way so that it's not so scary. We want to demystify it. You know, you can read so much misinformation on Dr. Google and the message boards, which I strongly recommend you stop doing today. That's the first thing that you can start doing to take care of yourself because there's too much misinformation. Pull your earlobes, tap the back of your head, and all of those supplements that have all kinds of crazy stuff in it that are really unhealthy. So we want to teach you the healthy way to understand it, to demystify what tinnitus is. We want you to become a tinnitus expert so that it's not scary anymore. And then the other piece, the other component is sound therapy. We want to turn loud tinnitus to soft, low-level ambient sound. And if there's hearing, we have to address the hearing with hearing instruments. And sound therapy can be done in many different ways: tabletop sound generators, apps on your phone, ear level devices, which is the best way because that way sound is with you all the time. But we explain that through the neurophysiologic model when we sit down with you and we explain all of it, and we put it together so it all makes sense. And it's very personalized, and we tell you stories and we just put it together, and it's always so interesting. At least I think it's interesting because it's what I do all the time. But it's fascinating. So let's see. So patient selection. Who is the best patient? Well, that's a good question. What factors influence outcomes? Dr. Scaglione brought something up in terms of the research. Is it early onset? Do we wait a while? What's the answer? I always believe that we wait only a little while, not a lot, but there can be, it can resolve as quickly as it came. It becomes, we call it persistent after perhaps 6 months, but we don't want to wait that long because the pathways become, it's kind of ingrained, and we don't want that. We want to treat early on. Do we want to do everything full blown in the beginning? No. But if we start early, we can nip it in the bud. So earlier for me, the better. Why wait? And factors influencing outcomes. So the fear factor, that's the other piece. When you're afraid, that also impacts. So if a person is super anxious, that also has to be managed. It depends on the degree of anxiety. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at. And that's why we do a very in-depth case history. We want to get to know you. What are your issues? What's happening? It's, again, it's a relationship. So, what have you done so far? What's important to you? What about your lifestyle? All of these come into play. And again, real world challenges. Will you be compliant? Will you follow our recommendations? What if we recommend this? Maybe you won't be as successful if you don't do this, or you do this. It's a back and forth. It's a relationship. Expectations have to be realistic. Comorbidities. If you have a hearing loss, or maybe you are sound sensitive, or again, high anxiety, all of these have to be managed. And that's the beauty of tinnitus retraining therapy, because Dr. Jastreboff, who's so brilliant, created protocols. So if you do have sound sensitivity, there are protocols that we put into play first for sound sensitivity, and your tinnitus is being treated at the same time. So it really covers all bases and answers all questions. And the tools, sound therapy devices, they have come a long way. Back in the day, we just had, quote, maskers, analog devices. We used to try to match the frequency. We don't do that anymore. The techniques are totally different. The technology is totally different. We have very smart devices now that are programmed on our computers, and you're working with skilled providers to find the best tools that are best for you. And of course, the counseling and coaching and finding what is important for you to work on as you go through the journey, because you can't go on this journey alone. You have to have a coach to help you along, as you heard from Maria, and as you heard from Earl. It's very important to have that support. So, summary of outcome data: impact of TRT on annoyance, awareness, quality of life. So what we know and what we see from the evidence and expectations and all of that, what we do, and as Dr. Scaglione said, we don't have objective measures. So we bombard our patients with questionnaires. It's the only way we know right now, but it works because you don't remember from time to time. Oh, my patients say, well, I'm doing the same. Usually that's not the case, because they don't realize how much better they're doing. So we look at the questionnaires from the initial consult to where they are in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and see the improvement. And it's always remarkable. Is it a straight linear improvement? Usually not. It's usually the the rubber band, the squiggly line, up and down and up and down, one step forward, one back. It's life. That's what happens. We don't live in a vacuum. We have emotional component that we have to manage. We have life issues, sleep issues. We've got all kinds of things that go on in our lives that impact how we're managing our tinnitus. So we have to take all of that into consideration. But the big picture, that's how we see our outcomes. And success rate, what does that mean? Success is less aware, less annoyed. Is the tinnitus an issue anymore? Does it affect the quality of life? Can you sleep better? Can you enjoy your social life better? Are you enjoying your family better? All of these quality of life issues is what we're analyzing. But we're asking you in the beginning, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? And we work together to achieve that step by step. So, pitfalls. And this is why working with a skilled provider is critical, because if you don't go to the right provider, they can overpromise cure. That's unfortunately not possible, but the reality is, if you're not hearing your tinnitus, then you don't even have to cope with it. It's as if it's not even there. So we're not looking for a cure. We're looking for your tinnitus to be a non-issue in your life. So be careful when you start hearing about a cure. We're hoping with future research, we're going to see a cure in our lifetimes. That's what we're hoping for. But for right now, we have tinnitus retraining therapy. Poor follow through. These are pitfalls if you're not working with a skilled provider, or the sound therapy isn't correct. There's a particular way that this is done. If it's not done right, you won't be so successful. And of course, not managing the other issues, the anxiety or the sleep. And that's very, very important to improving your life. So the key takeaways: recovery starts with your relationship that develops between you and your provider. And you heard it all today. And I saw it in the comments, how wonderful your relationships have been with your providers. And I mean, that's what it's all about with any kind of healing process. It's your relationship with your provider. And that is critical. And having that support on your journey. Individualization is essential because it is not one size fits all. It's very, very personal. And ultimately, habituation is the goal: less aware, less annoyed. The brain is the target. We're not looking at your ears, it's the brain, but it's your whole person. We work on lifestyle, on, quality of life, and ultimately the brain. Counseling and sound therapy and the synergy of that, tinnitus retraining therapy. And it doesn't happen to you. You have to be an active participant. So persistence and compliance matters. It takes time and having the structure. So there you have it. So any questions?
Yes, there are absolutely questions.
Okay.
The first question is, in your experience, how have you seen bimodal stimulation compared to tinnitus retraining therapy? Which kinds of people are the right fit for one or the other? Or should people try both simultaneously?
It's a good question. So, bimodal brain mods, let's just say linear. It's the only device that's out there. Bimodal stimulation, brain stimulation. What I have found is when it's the right candidate, it can speed up the process in terms of reducing tinnitus symptoms. If the person has a hearing loss, we have to address the hearing. So it depends on, it's very individual. So I have found very, very good success with linear, and very good success with tinnitus retraining therapy. So making that decision, again, is very, very individual. So it depends if the patient, what their primary concern is as to which way we go. And there are contraindications for linear, so we have to go through that if they have an implantable device like Inspire or a pacemaker or something like that. So there are some contraindications. So we have to look at everything. Linear is for moderate to severe tinnitus, and again, it's been very, very effective. The other piece of that is I incorporate tinnitus retraining therapy in my linear treatment. So TRT is always the foundation of everything. So TRT is right for almost everyone, and linear is right for certain population. And it just really, it's very, again, very individual.
Absolutely. So from what you're saying, it could work for some people out there, depends on the individual case. Therefore, speaking with someone who knows both options would allow the patient to get the right recommendation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, linear is very successful. Tinnitus retraining therapy is very successful. So it really is, again, a very individual decision.
Thank you so much. All right. Our next question is, coming from, hold on a second. Our next question is coming from Tammy. Let's talk about hearing test results. So
Okay.
if someone has a hearing loss in the high pitches, if someone has gotten a hearing test of ultra high frequencies, how do you recommend whether that person needs hearing aids or sound therapy devices based on the degree of high pitch hearing loss that the patient has?
So I don't base my recommendation on you're saying ultra highs beyond 8K is what you're saying, is what she's saying.
Yes, we're curious about high
Beyond.
pitch hearing loss in general and when is enough hearing loss to recommend hearing aids versus a small amount of hearing loss that maybe it's weight or do something else.
Did she say beyond what frequency? When she says high frequency, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Yes, over 8,000 hertz.
Oh, over 8. I don't make my recommendations based on personally beyond 8K, but I base it on, well, the person may need, probably would need sound therapy. But if that person is having communication difficulties, but I don't make that decision. I have my patient come in and evaluate them with a sound therapy evaluation, and they will tell me how that experience is. And it's amazing, even though on paper it may not look like up to 8K that that hearing is normal, they may find some high frequency amplification does make a difference for them. But until we evaluate them, who am I to say what their brain needs?
Thank
So
you so
the
much.
answer is evaluate.
Thank you so much. And next question is from Charles. Charles says, Dr. Brenner, you mentioned, the emotional reaction or response to tinnitus. Charles says, how about aggravation, irritation, and downright disgust? I'm going to fill in the next piece of it, which is when someone is dealing with significant tinnitus reaction, emotional, just disgust about the sound, how does one slowly turn that boat around? What from your experience?
Well, again, tinnitus retraining therapy, sound therapy, and probably make a referral for cognitive behavioral therapy or do some CBT, homework from, in the office, for homework at home. And if that's not enough, make a referral out for some cognitive behavioral therapy. Change the way we're thinking about the tinnitus.
Thank you. And next question is from Sam. Sam asks, I realize now that I need a customized sound therapy and long-term solution to get my brain to mitigate and adapt more effectively and efficiently. Can you please address and expand on the balance between time-tested techniques and appropriate applied technologies, likely, maybe newer technologies specifically for tinnitus, or maybe alternative therapies that sometimes are used for tinnitus. When I see Sam's question, I think of, does TMS work for tinnitus? Does acupuncture work for tinnitus? Does vagal nerve stimulation work for tinnitus? So could you comment on balancing TRT with some of those other alternative approaches?
Right. So with TRT, certainly, it depends on what the patient needs. It could be if, acupuncture is great for relaxation. We talk about lifestyle and coaching for sleep or whatever areas the patient is in need of. In terms of TMS and hyperbaric, oxygen and all those kinds of things. I have, red light treatments. I have patients that decide to try all kinds of things. The TMS, there's really been nothing proven. There are locations in this area, up in the Pocono area, that use TMS for depression, who claim to use it for tinnitus, but they don't really know where to put the electrodes, and it's not really, unfortunately, been so successful. So the more extreme, and don't waste your money on, and I'm sorry, don't waste your money on the red light therapy, although it's not too expensive. I haven't seen any paper supporting that at this point, or any of my patients who decide to try it, that it's been helpful. So when something comes up, you will know. So we are looking also for something else that will be really, really helpful. I guess that's my answer.
Thank you so much. And another question is specifically for sleep. What have you found to be the most successful for getting better sleep, falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up in the middle of the night? Maybe it's because of my tinnitus, maybe it's not. Now I
Right.
can't go back to sleep. What have you found works for those people?
Well, there on Spotify, there are nighttime stories that you can listen to. It's called Nothing Much Happens, and they tell stories that just put you right to sleep. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep, there's no beginning and end, and they change up the stories. So that would be good. I know that you can get the headband with little speakers. There are pillow speakers. Don't put your phone under your pillow because it can catch on fire. You can have your phone next to your bed. So, I mean, that's kind of a nice way to sort of just put you to sleep. But that's if you don't have a lot of emotional anxiety, but that can just lull you right to sleep. And it's good in the middle of the night if you need to put that on. Um, if anxiety is a real problem in the middle of the night, then we do have a resource. I believe that's Dr. Lullaby that you can have a consult with. There are sleep strategies. We have handouts that can be helpful. Sleep hygiene you can find online. Going to sleep at the same time, having a routine before you go to sleep, not having the TV on. I mean, there's many different things, different strategies for sleep. But when your central nervous system is heightened all day long from your tinnitus, and then you try to go to sleep, your body's on high alert. And sometimes that makes that a little difficult. So something just simple may not be enough, and you might need a little bit more assistance.
Guys, let's give a virtual round of applause for Dr. Gail Brenner. What an amazing talk. Love it. So we see the emojis coming on the screen right now here on Zoom. Lots of love in the air.
Thank you.
Gail, thank you so much. And
pleasure.
it's
Thank you.
such an honor to collaborate and work with you for the patients in the greater Philadelphia area. If
Thank
someone wants to work with you or get in contact with your clinic, let's say they are interested in a telehealth call or an in-person appointment in Philadelphia, where can they go to find more information and get some help?
Yeah, give us a call. 610-747-0757.
Thank you, guys. We're going to put that in the chat, and then you can get in touch with Dr. Gail Brenner and our clinic in Philadelphia. We'll also include the email address and the phone number for you guys to get in touch. So Garrett, if you're listening, could you drop those in the chat? Thank you so much. All right, Gail, thank you again, and we'll be in touch.
So much.
Guys, that was an amazing talk, but wait, there's more, because most of you guys have seen some of my videos online. I'm really passionate about tinnitus, and I tend to bring a lot of new information and just helpful insights. So next up, I'll be giving my talk here at the Tinnitus Relief Summit Fall Edition. Quickly, I wanted to say, if you haven't completed the poll, you need to complete the poll right now, because we're going to do a giveaway at the end of my talk. We'll be giving away 3 day and night tinnitus relief kits. What exactly is included in the kit? Well, it has a high quality sound machine, our top sound machine, where we got the best sounds from our YouTube channel, the Treble Health YouTube channel, Silk, Shimmer, and the Crickets that has gotten millions of listens. We put those inside of this sound card in this Sound Oasis device. So this is not something you can just buy on Amazon from Sound Oasis. We put our best sound therapies inside of the sound machine. And that's part of this day and night kit. We also have a sleep headband with the Treble Health logo on it. That sleep headband has some thin speakers. It's been mentioned throughout this talk. So we combine both of those and we call that the day and night tinnitus relief kit. So stick around because we'll be giving away 3 of these to individuals who are here at the end of my talk, who have completed the poll. So we're going to now launch the poll again for those who have not completed it. And we'll give you guys 2 minutes to complete that. In the meantime, so if you haven't completed the poll, you'll see a pop-up appear on your screen and you'll have 2 minutes to complete that. In the meantime, I want to lay out the details of my talk. All right. So my talk will discuss comprehensive tinnitus treatment, the 5 most important tools, and how to master them. And guys, as I was thinking about this, I wanted to simplify practical physical things you could try. So sometimes with these talks, there's a lot of information and there's less action than I'd like to see. So I created my talk after doing web classes like this for nearly 4 straight years. I like when people can leave with tangible, practical things they can implement and try. If you're completing the poll right now, we're going to give that another minute. So get your answers in quickly here. The 5 tools I'll mention, some of them are physical tools, products, technologies, and some of them are more cognitive tools or mind-body tools that actually happen within your mind, within your brain. There's no secret now that the best approach to tinnitus will include multiple modalities at the same time. So it would be a comprehensive treatment. And that's why I'm bringing up these 5 tools, because they tend to represent various components of the comprehensive treatment. All right, for those who haven't completed the poll yet, we'll give it another 20 seconds, and then I'll get started with my talk. All right, thank you guys so much. We're going to end the poll now. Thank you so much. All right, hang on, guys. We're about to get started. Thank you for waiting. All right, let's activate the chat a little bit. So I want to hear from you guys so far. Which talk was really inspiring, or did you feel like, whoa, I related to that doctor or that person? Just to recap, we had Dr. Suzanne May, we had Maria, we had Dr. Tricia Scaglione, we had Michael, we had Dr. Gail Brenner, and we have myself. So I want to hear from you. Debbie says Michael was so relatable. We have a lot of other responses here. Tom said Suzanne's talk helped the most. Anna said Gail. Diane said all and Suzanne. So just this is what we're here for. We're here to get you guys better, really. And I think something like this is a good catalyst to improve your situation and improve your health. All right, let me jump in here. Now is my talk. Today I'll be discussing the comprehensive tinnitus treatment that includes 5 tools, very important tools, and how you can master them. What gives me the ability to talk about this? Well, here's data that we collected with our patients at Treble Health. So in the last 4 years, we've actually seen and helped over 2,500 patients through a comprehensive treatment. That means working with them for multiple appointments over a significant time, often programming and optimizing their medical devices. We're getting very intimate and a close relationship with these patients. And we've seen over 2,500 of them. It's a lot. We're making a big impact. So we're able to track the data. We measure tinnitus with the Tinnitus Functional Index. And this is data that tracks the outcomes. So for patients who have completed all the surveys or all of the questionnaires throughout the treatment, we have this data set, which shows that the average person who comes to us has a significant level of tinnitus. On a 1 to 10 scale, it's between a 6 and a 7 out of 10. That's serious. That's affecting sleep. That's causing anxiety. It's causing stress. That's probably the biggest health problem this person has dealt with in the last 5 years. The data shows here that for people who were working with us consistently, that within 3 months, the average patient reduced their tinnitus by 35%. And when we follow these patients consistently, seeing the results of what they're doing with us and seeing how that affects them over time, even after they stop meeting with us for appointments, we can see that this trails all the way down. The last time we checked, the average patient was able to reduce their tinnitus by 50% compared to where they started. This is us tracking people within the first year after they started, being in contact, working with us. So what does this mean? This means that we've seen a lot of people. I've personally been involved with many, many cases, and I know what tools work for these patients. Here's Steve, who's a pharmacist in New York. And Steve says, Treble Health helped me reduce my tinnitus by about 80%, and now I can live my life again. He used sound therapy devices on the ears. He met for one-on-one appointments to settle his nervous system and work on the cognitive treatment component. And this is where he's at today, 80% better. I love stories like that. So there's 5 tools here, and I organized them, generally speaking, from important to very important. So tool number 5 is called CBTI. This is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Why does it matter? For people with tinnitus, the number 1 complaint is sleep. For people with significant tinnitus, it's very bothersome. It's really affecting my life. Sleep is still the number 1 most bothersome impact. I don't need to tell you guys the importance of sleep. We know that sleep is a foundation of life and health. But there's a huge knowledge gap because many people look for just sound therapy to help them sleep. That's a good approach. It's a good fundamental of, okay, can I get sound to counteract the ringing or hissing in my head? Can I use a sound machine or a sleep headband, or can I use my phone, the speaker coming from my phone? Can I implement a sleep sound therapy tool? Yes. And most people try that first. But then they come to me and they say, Dr. Eban, I'm really struggling with sleep. And I say, well, what have you tried? And they said, I tried some of your YouTube sounds, or I tried a white noise machine or a fan, and it's just not working. I'm really struggling. There's a big knowledge gap because most people don't think of this tool right here, number 5, CBTI. It's a evidence-based protocol created for patients who are struggling with sleep. It's not specifically for tinnitus, although I should make one, CBTIT, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia related to tinnitus. But I'm implementing this with our patients, and it works extremely well because this was found to be more effective at improving sleep than medication for a majority of patients. Compared head to head, this protocol, which has no medication, it has no physical device, there's nearly no cost besides getting a professional to help you with it, and it outperforms sleep medications. Wow, that's crazy. It might make us want to learn more about it. This is a multi-week, very detailed protocol. There are free resources for it. You can find this online. There's PDFs you can download. There's YouTube videos you can watch. But in my experience, what's needed here is a more simplified version of the protocol and working with someone who's been down the path or helped others down the path who can hold you accountable and make sure you're hitting the right benchmarks. So that's this tool. It's called the CBT-I sleep protocol. I have a few bullet points here just to explain what it is. I'm not going to explain the full protocol because it's pretty comprehensive. But here's a few main points. If you can build a 1-hour wind down routine before you go to sleep, and if you can keep a consistent wake time every day, that's very helpful to reset the sleep circuits in your system. A 1-hour wind down routine means turning off the phone, stop watching the news, turn off the TV, put on some relaxing music or turn down the lights, take a warm bath, do some guided breathing, meditation, read a relaxing book, anything in that domain counts as a 1-hour wind down routine. And the next point is, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're tossing and turning, and it's been more or less 20 minutes, the protocol states you need to leave your bed and return only when you're sleepy. So that means you can go to your couch, you can go to your kitchen table, sit down in a chair and just breathe. Put on some noise, put on some sound in the room if you can't be in the quiet place with your tinnitus. But don't go back into your bed until you're actually tired. You're noticing yourself kind of drowsy and nodding off. That shows your brain that the bed is a place for sleep. The bed is not a place for restlessness. All right, the next bullet point is that better sleep reduces nighttime tinnitus spikes and improves daytime coping. It's the foundation of your nervous system. So get it better. This is the tool to do it. That's why I said it's the number 5 tool on my list. The number 4 tool. And guys, I just want you to remember, if you're here because you want to reduce tinnitus, I'm literally spelling it out for you. Do these 5 things and don't tell me there's nothing you can do anymore if you haven't really done these 5 things well. And I'll be a little strict with you because it's easier talking to a group of people than my empathetic self speaking one-on-one where I can tell someone suffering. But I can be a bit of a tough love coach here, and I can say, don't be in a victim state of there's nothing I can do. I've tried everything. Take these 5 tools, take them as far as you can take them, or get professional help from me or us and my team. Take them as far as you can take them. That's going to move the needle for you. All right, number 4 is hearing devices. So I put here, hearing devices, even if you have a mild hearing loss. Here's why. Most people I talk to, most of you guys who schedule a consultation with us and talk to a doctor on my team or me, I learn that you guys have a high pitch hearing loss. And often it's mild. You say, I don't really perceive a hearing problem, but I know I have a tinnitus problem. And that's very common, right? What are the evidence-based strategies for tinnitus? Well, it actually turns out hearing devices or hearing aids, like this gentleman has in the screen right here, you can see the arrow pointing to behind his ear. Those are evidence-based tools to provide relief for tinnitus and make this a lot more manageable. Hearing aids themselves don't reduce the baseline level of tinnitus, once you take the devices off your ears per se, but they do promote the acoustic sound stimulation in your auditory brain that helps create the positive brain changes that are needed to reduce your tinnitus. There's parts of your brain that have a phantom sound response, the high-pitched sounds you don't hear on your hearing test in the hearing test booth. Those are the very types of high-pitched sounds that your brain creates with ringing or hissing. There's a correlation there. So if you can improve the input into your system through correcting the hearing loss, that will lead to a more effective tinnitus treatment. I'll say that again. I'm not saying you have hearing loss, you should take care of your hearing loss. I'm saying you want the best tinnitus treatment, use hearing devices even with a mild hearing loss. Take it seriously. Trust me, that's something you need to try. Maybe you don't keep it, but please try it. All right, the third point here is you should expect gradual benefits with hearing devices over weeks to months. When you combine that with one-on-one coaching and counseling with a specialist, you should expect gradual benefits, consistent, gradual changes. If you say, oh my God, it's been 3 days, I don't think this is working for me, you're playing the wrong game. You're trying to sprint your way through a marathon, or you're in a call, you're trying to get a PhD and you're already failing within the first week of class because you're not studying. Do you know what I mean? It's just a different game. So expect gradual benefits over weeks to months and if you combine that with counseling, that works really well and it's very important. Okay, tool number 3. Again, I'm not creating these out of thin air. I was spending a lot of time thinking and reviewing our protocols at Treble Health of thinking, what are the practical tools that people can start today that can get their tinnitus better? All right. So the sleep protocol, you can start it today. Hearing devices, you can start a risk-free trial today. Nervous system regulation, you can also start it today. So what is this? Well, what is the nervous system? All right, so the brain connects to the body through our nerves, right? We can sense touch through the nervous system. Well, that's also the same system or network that the brain regulates anxiety, stress, fear, excitement, safety, and these really fundamental animal elements of our body and our brain. People with tinnitus their brain is telling them, hey, there's this horrible sound, run away from it, stop it, eliminate it, fight it, or run from it. Well, it's inside our own body. So that creates this confusion, almost this short circuit where we can't run from it. It's inside our own head, and we can't fight it because there's no direct way to press it or, hold your ear and it goes away. There's none of that. So the nervous system is on high alert for nearly all of you. I can say that with certainty. If you have a moderate or a severe case of tinnitus, your nervous system is a big part of why things are out of balance. Researchers are studying for many years people with anxiety, stress, depression, insomnia, and actual nervous system diseases and disorders. How do we settle the nervous system? How do I get the body out of the fight or flight? Well, guys, people have figured this out. It's called nervous system regulation. One of the major tools, which is free, is called guided breathing techniques. Again, you can do it today. It's free. It really helps our patients. These are often short breathing exercises that lower your tinnitus reactivity. They can calm the fight or flight. They can settle the nervous system in the mind. They can settle the nervous system in the body. I put 2 specific techniques here that I use quite a lot. And these don't even have, I'll tell you how I use them, but these are called box breathing and 4-7-8 breathing. So a simple tool for you guys is when you're feeling your nervous system's on edge, or you want to be proactive in your day, you can do these techniques either sitting, standing, driving, walking, laying down. You can do them in a meeting. You're simply breathing. All right. You're just putting awareness on your breath. You can do them with your eyes closed. You can do them with your eyes open. 4-7-8 breathing. I use that one a lot when I feel anxious, when my nervous system is on high alert. This works well for our patients too. It's an inhale for 4, Hold your breath at the top for 7 seconds. And then slowly exhale through a straw through your mouth for 8 seconds. And repeat that process again. Inhale for 4 through your nose. Hold for about 7. Relax your stomach during that. It might be a little hard if you're not used to it. And then exhale like you're breathing out through a straw for 8 seconds. I was speaking with a psychologist colleague of mine, sleep doctor, and he said, you know, Ben, it was crazy. For many years, I was trying to use CBT for anxiety and sleep problems. And then researchers found 4-7-8 breathing is so good that when I started using that with my patients, their results were just incredible. I can't believe I didn't have that tool for the 2 decades I was just telling them to change their thinking about it. So this is almost like a physical hack of the body, where this isn't just thinking your way through this or trying to calm your mind down. This is actually changing the nervous system state. And you guys can do this for free. So don't tell me that you don't want to try it or meditation's not for me, because this is not meditation. This is not spiritual. This is not religious. This is not meditation. This is simply a breathing technique you can do in 1 minute that can settle your nervous system. When the nervous system is feeling more safe and grounded, tinnitus is less in my awareness. I'm less annoyed by it. That's how this system works. I love this. I wish every single person with tinnitus could hear these 5 tools, because that might be the only thing they need to hear for this to get better. Okay, number 2, again, these are things you can do today. Sleep, hearing devices, nervous system guided breathing. Number 2 is sound therapy. There's different ways to listen to sound therapy. There's different sounds to use, but you've learned about this through the summit. I won't spend too much time on this. Sound therapy is a way to play a soft, low-level sound of tinnitus, of sound therapy, to mix in with your tinnitus. It helps your brain reduce the tinnitus. Just like guided breathing helps the nervous system restructure, well, sound therapy helps the auditory brain and the tinnitus restructure. Here's an image. On the top left, we have a signal of tinnitus. Left to right, we have the pitch of tinnitus from low pitch to high pitch. We have the red line, which shows the relative loudness perception of tinnitus. If there's no background sound in your room, wow, tinnitus is very intense, intrusive, intolerable. When there's sound therapy played at a level softer than your tinnitus, the sound therapy mixes in with the tinnitus, and the brain perceives the tinnitus at a much lower intensity. Well, we use the neuroscience. Dr. Jastroboff found that through a system of conditioned reflexes, we can actually condition the nervous system through consistent use of sound therapy to reduce the intensity of tinnitus automatically, where the brain simply over time pushes it in the background so the individual is less aware of it, and it affects their life much less. So on the top right of this screen, you have an example of masking or completely covering the tinnitus. That's not what we want. Your brain cannot condition itself to reduce tinnitus if it's not perceiving the signal, okay? Or the tinnitus as the signal there. So sound therapy provides gentle background sound, so tinnitus is less noticeable. That has effects in the moment, providing relief. It also has effects of over time reducing the baseline level of tinnitus. I care more about that part, by the way. I like when you guys have relief from your sound. Okay, that's nice in the moment, but I actually want you to get to the point where you don't need sound therapy anymore, where tinnitus is habituated. You're aware of it less than 20% of your waking hours. You don't think about it hardly ever. It does not cause an emotional response when you do. That's where I want you guys to get to, and sound therapy happens to be one of the best tools to help get you there. You can use sound machine, you can use programmed medical devices, This woman has a device up and behind her ear. This can be for people with completely normal hearing, no hearing loss, or this can be used for patients who have tinnitus with some hearing loss. These devices are called sound therapy devices, or we can program sound therapy inside of hearing aids. I have a 6 to 8 rule that I'm working on. I want to test it with you guys. So what I found is that for a lot of people, they'll use the devices between 6 and 8 hours per day. And if they're going through a comprehensive treatment or a full treatment of tinnitus, they're trying to significantly reduce the baseline level. They've had this there for a while. They've tried a few things on their own. They need professional help. They're often using these devices on their ears between 6 and 8 months, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. So that's my rule that I'm playing with right now. I'm wondering if you guys have any feedback on that. Let me know in the chat here. And those 6 to 8 hours do not need to be continuous. They can be broken up. I see that question. Carl just asked that question there. Also, sound therapy, it does not count when you use it when you're sleeping. That's a different thing. So don't use that for your tinnitus retraining therapy hours or anything. That's just different. Okay. So can you use sound therapy today? Yes. Can you try these medical devices for the sound therapy? You could start trying them today by talking to us. We could help you with that. Nervous system guided breathing. Can you do that today? Yes. Hearing devices. Could you try that today? Get that started? Yes. Sleep protocol. Could you get that in motion and start that today? Yes. I told you I was giving you practical things. So I need you to start putting some of them in motion. The last one, and I put this one as number 1, and here's why. 2 years ago, I did this summit in Tinnitus Awareness Week in February 2023. And I asked Dr. Jastreboff, I said, what is the one most important thing that you think promotes habituation? Or, from your research, what's the one most important thing that can promote tinnitus habituation? And he said, proper understanding of what tinnitus is. And how I interpret that is the individual's brain is reacting or automatically processing tinnitus based on its knowledge or understanding about the sound. And if I feel like there's a threat, a danger, something unsafe in my head, my future is at risk, I can't be myself again, then tinnitus is a much more difficult condition to manage. But if I have the right understanding of how the anatomy works, how habituation works, how the brain can reduce the intensity of tinnitus with the tools like what I'm showing you here today, suddenly the brain starts to make tinnitus treatment easier. It becomes easier to manage. You can get relief. Life starts to go back to normal. So I put tool number 1 as essentially the cognitive treatment component of this. Replace negative thinking with neutral, evidence-based, science-based knowledge. You might have thoughts like, tinnitus is killing me. But if you actually ask yourself, is it really killing you? Because it's not. It's a benign, annoying body sensation, but it's non-life threatening, right? It's benign. And you might think, oh, I can't deal with this today. This is too much. Trying to shift that to, okay, other people have dealt with this. I can handle this. Here's what I'm going to do to respond, even though it's hard and even though it's loud right now. So if we can teach you to stop catastrophic thoughts or all or nothing thinking, oh, nothing ever works for me. And if we can use more neutral language, internal in your thoughts, and then communicating with words with your specialist or with your family, we can use different tools like the stop technique. We can look at the cognitive distortions that commonly happen with tinnitus thinking. We can have a daily practice of analyzing these thoughts. This cognitive treatment component can lead to less worry, less emotional fuel for tinnitus, better sleep, better quality of life. This is something that you can also start working on today. Here is Melinda, who worked with Treble Health. She said, Treble Health is a beacon of hope They helped me to significantly reduce my tinnitus volume and awareness within just a few short months. I want to highlight some of the components of what I've learned working with patients. So telehealth treatment works really well. The sound therapy devices or hearing devices can be shipped to the patient's house, and I can connect you with one of the top doctors in the country who work at Treble Health who specialize in tinnitus. And therefore, you get someone who really knows their stuff with technology that's really good at providing the sound therapy treatment on your ears. And you are off to a really good start, all without having to drive to a doctor clinic. Telehealth treatment works incredibly well. The technology is there. The expertise is there if you work with the right group. So don't sleep on that. Second, being able to be in a quiet place or a relaxing place, like reading a book on your couch, which this gentleman is doing. By the way, this is someone that I hired as a model to take this shot. Like literally, we wanted to capture this person reading a book in a normal living room, using a sound therapy device on their ear, and how he restored some sense of normal. I hear from you guys all the time. I can't imagine being in a quiet place, doing something simple, like even just reading in a quiet room. Well, you can get relief pretty quickly with the sound therapy devices. I wanted to show that here on the screen. And then sleep strategies. There's the CBT protocol, but there's also the sleep headband that we find success with our patients. So we often use that as part of our treatment. I shared this earlier, but it's worth just highlighting again. On an individual level, tinnitus can get better. On a large data level, actually collecting data over many patients, over many doctors following a similar protocol, personalized to the patient, tinnitus gets better. It's not completely gone, but it's managed to the point that your outcome is to say, you know what, I am feeling a lot better. Tinnitus doesn't control me anymore. I feel like I'm back to my normal self. That's what we're going for. I want to highlight a program we've created called the Tinnitus 180 program. It has the devices on the ears. You work 6 months closely with a doctor on my team. That's 10 sessions. We have our group coaching that meets twice per month. We also include a sound machine, a sleep headband, and a specialist session with either a sleep doctor, a somatosensory specialist, or a psychologist doing coaching. So this is a robust program. This is what we've learned gets patients the best results, the results that I'm showing you here on the screen. So if you combine the 5 tools I've talked about with an actual way to get it done of a program where my team will help you walk through the exact steps, I'm really confident that's what a lot of you guys are looking for. So I'd recommend considering giving that a try. This is James. James had a very complex type of tinnitus. He had ringing and he had pulsatile tinnitus. He went through a significant stress issue and he had hearing loss. And this was not an easy case of tinnitus. He says, within just 1 month, my tinnitus symptoms significantly reduced, leading to a 75% improvement over 9 months, restoring control and hope in my life. So this is the kind of result that we want each of you to have the opportunity to have. And right now, instead of asking you guys to sign up for a program, I wanted to speak to the people who need help for this and need to speak to a doctor. Or if you're an existing patient with ours and you're looking to, if you stopped working with us and it's been a lot of time and you want to pick things back up or improve things, then I'd recommend right now that you scan the phone here and schedule a consultation. Right after this, we're going to announce the winner for the day and night giveaway. So hang tight here. There will be 3 winners announced live on this call. I'm excited for that. But before I do that, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to schedule this consultation with a doctor on my team. We have slots open this week. So let's go ahead and drop that in the chat right now, where we can schedule the consultation for you to speak with a doctor on my team at Treble Health. All right. And you can work with any of the doctors that we've highlighted today. All the doctors today are Treble Health doctors. So definitely you can request the specific specialist that you want to work with. But with the link below, the link on the screen, what you can do here is you can schedule a consultation with a doctor from Treble Health. You'll speak with me, Dr. Ben, or you'll speak with Dr. Ramsey or Dr. Garrett. So we're the individuals who are available to help take those calls for you. Let's give that another 2 minutes, and then we'll jump to the giveaway. The giveaway will be announced to people who are here live. All right, so I just dropped in the chat the specific link. You can schedule a free consultation with one of us three. And in terms of insurance, there is a question coming in about insurance. So Maxine, thank you for your question. Kay Davis, thank you for your question as well. So tinnitus treatment in isolation is not covered by insurance. I wish it was not the case, but tinnitus by itself, typically not covered. Sometimes part of the treatment can be reimbursed or covered by insurances. It depends on what insurance you have and the details. So often on those calls, Maxine, I'll get to learn what type of insurance you have and if it has a benefit for this kind of treatment. And then we'll figure out what your insurance would cover. But typically, this is a private pay treatment where the patient pays for the cost of the treatment to us. And then you may get some reimbursement, some partial coverage from your insurance. We have another question which asks, can we review the stop technique? Yeah, Mary, I can review the stop technique. And guys, just remember, we're pausing here for 2 minutes to encourage you guys who would see the benefit of speaking to a doctor on my team to see if you qualify for our program and to give you some specific advice and next steps. But as we're doing that, we're just answering some questions, and then we'll be announcing the winner of the giveaway. All right, so the stop technique is a CBT approach to help the individual who's in a heightened nervous system state or an anxiety stress response to stop, literally stop moving, take a breath, observe what I'm feeling or experiencing. Oh, I'm feeling my mind just won't stop about my tinnitus. Oh, my heart is beating really fast. My breathing is shallow. My shoulders are tight. So that's the O, S-T-O-P-P. S is for stop. T is for take a breath. O is for observe thoughts or sensations. P is for put things into perspective. Okay, this is just one day in my life. I'm not having the best day, but tomorrow I'll get another chance. I've had days like this before, gotten better. I can do this. And P is to proceed with your normal everyday routine. Proceed with whatever it is that the better version of yourself wants to be doing in that moment. Get back to work, be present with my spouse, go walking, anything like that. Thank you for your question. David, you asked what's the treatment code for insurance billing. So that varies on what you need, and I won't be able to give that right here on the call. But if you want to speak with us and are serious and that is one of your questions, then please schedule a consult and we'll be able to provide the code that's most appropriate for your individual case. It can vary on whether you need the devices on your ears or if you don't. And then Dr. Ramsey, we have some questions in the chat if you can help with that. And I'll take one last question here. So guys, just a reminder, if you haven't already, the opportunity is there for you to schedule a consultation with myself or 2 other doctors on our team, and we'll be able to provide you the right personalized recommendation and determine if you're a candidate for different types of tinnitus treatment. Paul, you asked about hyperacusis. Hyperacusis is very treatable. It's very, very treatable. There are solutions and treatments for hyperacusis. We specialize in that. That's called sound sensitivity. So definitely reach out to us as well for hyperacusis. Tim, box breathing. Box breathing is similar to 4-7-8, but instead of 4-7-8, inhale, pause, exhale. Box breathing is 4-4-4-4. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause. And for those of you who didn't complete the poll, I'm sorry, we stopped it for various reasons, but you're more than welcome to schedule a call with us and we can help you out in that sense. But right now we're about to do the giveaway for the day and night kit. Okay. And then we have the last question here, which is Leanne asks, can you explain what TRT really is versus sound therapy? Yes, I can, Leanne. So sound therapy by itself is just listening to sound. TRT is sound plus one-on-one coaching sessions and specific therapy style sessions with a doctor who's trained in the method. So you might ask, what is mindfulness treatment? Well, specialists have to get trained in this specific one-on-one coaching and counseling technique, and then they can provide it one-on-one. Similar to cognitive behavioral therapy, you get trained, you provide it one-on-one with specific words you say, practices, techniques. Tinnitus retraining therapy is similar, where in a one-on-one session, I would be performing tinnitus retraining therapy. That typically lasts between 4 and 8 appointments spread out over time. And then you'd have things you're doing in between the appointments as part of the treatment. All right, guys, now is the time that at least some of you have been waiting for. This is the Tinnitus Relief Summit giveaway. So we're giving away 3 day and night relief kits. And what we want to do is give the people who are awarded the kits, we want to give the winners an opportunity to get on the microphone here and share a bit about what this means to them or what they learned today. So let me go ahead and announce the winners right now. Hang tight, guys. Okay, so I have some assistance, some support in the background, and I have the lucky winners right here. So I'm hoping that some of you guys are going to be here right now. And I do see that some of you are here right now. So I'm going to promote you guys who are selected to be a panelist on the talk right here. And perfect. We have all 3 of you guys that are here. So if you could please, if you were just given a prompt to join as a panelist, that means you're selected, and we'll introduce you guys right now. All right, excellent. So first up, first winner of the day and night relief kit is Frank Aurelio. Frank, could you please turn on your camera and your microphone, please? Frank, congratulations. You've won a tinnitus relief day and night kit. How are you, my friend?
That's awesome. I'm doing well. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody that was in the part that took part in the presentation today, because I thought the information was really invaluable and helped to clear the air on a lot of issues.
I love that. And where are you calling from, Frank?
So I'm in Maryland.
I love it. And what do you do for work or with your time? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a former Army, and I am now retired.
Excellent. I love that. And what's 1 or 2 things you learned from the summit here today?
So I learned, obviously, that tinnitus is something that you can work with to get some relief. So it's not, as I've been told, as I've gone to different, doctors in the last several months, that there's nothing you can do. It's not really true. There is something you can do. There's a lot of different things that are available out there. You just have to make yourself smart on those things. And then you have to take charge. You have to take charge of yourself, of your own treatment. So you have to kind of look out there and determine what's available and what are you going to do to take care of it. So that's
excellent.
the way I view it.
Excellent. Well, Frank, hang around for a bit. We might come back. So congratulations. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you.
And next up, the next lucky winner is Mr. Michael Braden. Michael, nice to meet you. Nice to see you. And tell us about what this means for you.
Yeah, I've been dealing with tinnitus for about 5 years now, and just getting some relief from this. I mainly deal with it at night. So just knowing that, there is options out here to kind of gain some relief, even though it's not constant in my case, but it is enough that it's bothersome. I'm an optometrist, so I know that people that come in with floaters, I tell them that, your brain will work it out. Your brain will kind of start to ignore it over time. So I've had an MRI to check out I don't have anything wrong with me, physically. But just knowing that there's some relief out there, I'm looking forward to getting some relief.
And Michael, where do you live? Where do you work?
I live in Kentucky.
Excellent, excellent. And as an optometrist focusing on the eyes, are there any parallels you see? You mentioned floaters. Are there any parallels you see between tinnitus and different eye conditions?
Yeah, it's just like like I said, your brain, when you first get glasses, people are really aware of the frame. It drives them crazy, but over time, your brain will adapt to and get used to it. And I think sound therapy is going to be the same situation to kind of help you adapt from getting away from the tinnitus.
I love it. And have you tried the sleep headband or the sound machine in the past?
No, I haven't. I've used some of the YouTube videos online to listen to, but no, as far as I haven't.
Okay. Uh, well, thank you so much. Hang out here for a moment, but if you need to leave, I totally understand. And great to meet you, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Before Frank, Michael, and our next winner leave, if you guys could send me a let's see, I'm going to actually put our email here, contact@treblehealth.com. If you could send your shipping address to that email because you won the kit, then we'll get it out. We'll get it sent out to you. Or you can reply to me individually on Zoom with your shipping address. But please don't send it to everyone on the internet. Okay, next up we have our third winner. We have Steve Maniscalco. Steve, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Tell us about yourself. Where do you live and what do you do with your time?
Yeah, so I'm in Bloomington, Illinois, and I'm actually recently retired. And one of my big hobbies is playing guitar in a band. And, the tinnitus, when I play even loud music, I can, the tinnitus affects it. And so I didn't think there'd ever be a solution for that. So I'm hoping you guys can help me out with that.
And what have you learned from the summit? What are some takeaways that you have?
Yeah, so well, that was actually one of my questions that I put in the Q&A is, if I'm playing loud music, and can you actually control the tinnitus while you have loud music? And I was told, yes, that is a possibility. So, um, yeah, and I also wear hearing aids, and just one of my other questions was, can I use, you know, the different I don't know, the different noises in the hearing aids I have, and I was told, likely you can do that, and so, but all the different uh, treatments available, I was not aware of those as well. So, it makes me feel like there is hope
Thank you
for
so
my
much.
issue.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that sense of hope combined with putting things into practice, and I think those 5 tools I mentioned are very okay. Oh, okay, I can start this week. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Frank, Steve, any last words here of you guys have been you guys are on the podium here. Any last words of what you plan to implement here in the next month with your own ears?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm already trying to do sound therapy on my own, but I will definitely use some of the things that I acquired today to weave that into my overall strategy of trying to get better.
Thank you, Frank. And Steve?
Yeah, I've been following Treble Health for quite a while, and actually had a couple calls, and now I'm ready to take a step and jump in, and hopefully, it sounds like I said, there's hope, and looking forward to managing tinnitus much better. One of the things that I found interesting is that I actually can sleep well, so I'm not. Um, that's really not an issue for me, even though I have tinnitus. I just have a big fan by my bed, and but yeah, so I'm looking forward to get
Excellent.
better.
Excellent. Well, you two guys, make sure you reply to me in the chat here. I'll send you a personal message here, but make sure you reply with your shipping address. We can get those sent out to you. And then, guys, we've done it. This is the end of the Tinnitus Relief Summit, Fall Edition 2025. We do this every 3 months. We are a pillar for the tinnitus community. It's a labor of love. So you can join the next Tinnitus Relief Summit, which is during the National Tinnitus Awareness Week, first week of February 2026. And thank you guys so much. Without you, this would just be nothing. So really appreciate everyone engaging, asking questions, and big shout out to all of the guest speakers, particularly the patients who themselves are sharing their vulnerable story. You know, that's a real act of volunteering and giving back. So thank you to everyone and the doctors who shared. All right, guys, we're all set. And thank you so much. Be well and reach out to Treble Health if you have any further questions. Our email is contact@treblehealth.com. Thanks so much.